As you know, 2 days ago, signed a deal with South Korea, trade deal, tremendous deal with South Korea. It means a lot of business for our farmers. We're opening up for farmers. We're opening up for a lot of different groups. We're going to be able to sell much more than double the number of automobiles that we were allowed under a deal that was totally defective, that was there before. And so we're very happy with that. That deal is actually concluded. We're very well along the way with Mexico. The relationship is very good. And with Canada, we'll see what happens. They're charging us 300% tariffs on dairy products. We can't have that. We can't have that. We were allowed under a deal that was totally defective, that was there before. We put out an announcement today. And so we're very happy with that. That deal is actually concluded. We're very well along the way with Mexico. The relationship is very good. And with Canada, we'll see what happens. They're charging us 300% tariffs on dairy products. We can't have that. We can't have that. We were allowed under a deal that was totally defective, that was there before. And so we're very happy with that. That deal is actually concluded. We're very well along the way with Mexico. The relationship is very good. And with Canada, we'll see what happens. They're charging us 300% tariffs on dairy products. We can't have that. We can't have that. We were allowed under a deal that was totally defective, that was there before. And so we're very happy with that. That deal is actually concluded. We're very well along the way with Mexico. The relationship is very good. And with Canada, we'll see what happens. They're charging us 300% tariffs on dairy products. We can't have that. We can't have that. We were allowed under a deal that was totally defective, that was there before. And so we're very happy with that. That deal is actually concluded. We're very well along the way with Mexico. The relationship is very good. And with Canada, deal that was totally defective, they're charging us 300% tariffs on dairy products. We can't have that. And so we're very happy with that. That deal is actually totally defective. We're very well along the way with Mexico. The relationship is very good. That deal is actually totally defective. We're very well along the way with Mexico. The relationship is very good. And so we're very happy with that. That deal is actually concluded and defective. We're very well along the way with Mexico. The relationship is very good. They're charging us 300% tariffs. And so we're very happy with that. That deal is actually concluded and defective. We're very well along the way with Mexico. So we're very happy with that. That deal is actually concluded and defective. We're very well along the way with Mexico. The relationship is very good. So we're very happy with that. They're charging us 300% tariffs. We're well along the way with Mexico. And so we're very happy with that. That deal is actually concluded and defective. We're very well along the way with Mexico. The relationship is very good. And defective. Very well along the way with Mexico. So we're very happy with that. That deal is actually concluded and defective. We're very well along the way with Mexico. The relationship is very good. And defective. Very well along the way with
Show
Everybody that knows him says the same thing. And these are all false, to me, these are false accusations in certain cases. In certain cases, even the media agrees with that. I can only say that what they've done to this man is incredible. You know, it's very interesting. I pick a lot of judges. I have 145 judges I will be picking by the end of a fairly short period of time, because President Obama wasn't big on picking judges. When I got there, I said, how is this possible? You know, I have 145, including Court of Appeals judges I will be picking. And they just didn't do it. You know why? They got tired. They got complacent. Something happened. I have 145 judges. Everybody wants to be a federal judge, not just a Supreme Court judge. I'm talking about Court of Appeals. I'm talking about District Court. I don't think they're going to want to so much. I'll be calling people, and we'll have people calling people that do this. And people are going to be scared, because we could say it about you. 35 years ago, you met, and you might not know what's going on. What is going on? Why did they wait so long? Why did Senator Feinstein wait till the hearings were over and make this case? Why didn't she bring it right at the beginning when you ask about, as an example, the FBI? Why didn't they bring this right at the beginning, during the hearing? You would have had all the time in the world for the FBI. It would have been fine. Now, the FBI, as you know, did investigate this time, as they have 5 or 6 other times. And they did a very thorough investigation. But this is a big con job. And I would love to be in the room with the Democrats. Close the door. You guys are all away outside waiting. And Schumer and his buddies are all in there laughing how they fooled you all. Let's just stop them. A big fat con. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. President, why do you follow up 5 or 6 other times? Do you understand why a victim of sexual assault is not reported at the time? Don't you understand?
By the way, I only say this. 36 years. No charge, no nothing. But everybody, people are going to have to make a decision. 36 years, there's no charge. All of a sudden, the hearings are over, and the rumors start coming out. And then you have this other con artist, Avenatti, come out with another beauty today. I only say that you have to look at the facts. The senators are very capable people. They're very good people. I know many of them. They're friends of mine. These are very talented, very good people. And they're going to vote. They're going to have to believe what they believe. When I look at what's happened to the reputation of a great gentleman, a great intellect, a brilliant man, somebody that has a chance to be one of our great Supreme Court justices in history, intellectually, I think it's a shame. Yes, please.
Tomas Regalado from Radio and TV Martin. Mr. President, yesterday at the speech with the UN, you spoke about how Venezuela's problem was because of Cuba and Castro, how they went in there and they brought socialism and communism to Venezuela and now to Nicaragua as well. Mr. President, are you going to be more proactive now against Cuba as well?
I've been very proactive against Cuba. I don't like what's happening in Cuba. As you know, President Obama gave them a pass, and I didn't like it. Neither do Cuban people based in Miami and based in our country that came from Cuba and suffered in Cuba. I don't like what he did. I've ended much of it, most of it. I don't like what's happening in Cuba, and I certainly don't like what's happening in Venezuela. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. President, just to finish really fast, you said also that you had a call to action to ask those leaders around the world to also end socialism. Would you like to be recognized as...
Well, I wouldn't say that socialism has been working really well around the world. Okay, you can take a look at Venezuela as your number one. Your number one, I guess the one that's most obvious, but you take a look around the world, socialism is not exactly riding high. Please. Go ahead. Okay, you can take a look at Venezuela as your number one.
Thank you very much. If you don't mind, after I'm finished, if female colleagues would go out and see that would be great. Mr. President has to follow up on these allegations against President.
What does he mean by that? Explain. What does that mean? What does it mean? No, what does it mean?
So if you don't mind,
I wouldn't mind that at all. No, wouldn't mind it at all.
All right, well, let me...
wouldn't make any difference to me.
All right.
Go ahead.
I'd like to follow up on John and John's question. Why is it, Mr. President, that you always seem to side with the accused and not the accuser? You have 3 women here. We're all making allegations. We're all asking that their stories be heard. And, you know, if you look at the case of Roy Moore, if you look at the case of one of your staffers, you seem to time and again side with the accused and not the accuser. Is that because of many allegations that you've had made against you over the years?
Well, first of all, I wasn't happy with Roy Moore. Let's get that straight. But Roy Moore was a Republican candidate, and I would have rather had a Republican candidate win. I was very happy with Luther Strange, who was a terrific man from Alabama. But Luther Strange had a lot of things going against him. As far as women, whether it's a man or a woman, these are, you know, it can happen the other way. Allegations can go the other way also. You understand that. And whether it was a man or a woman, 30 years ago, 36 years ago, in fact, they don't even know how many years ago because nobody knows what the time is. That's a long time. And I could pick, as an example, hopefully I won't have to do it as a replacement because hopefully this is going to go very well on Thursday. It's going to go very well on Monday or Saturday or Sunday or whenever they vote. But I could pick a woman, and she could have charges made from many years ago also. And I would look at the character, know what I have to do. I don't think people are reluctant to come forward. They're going to have a chance to speak at they have a major chance to, excuse me. They have a major chance to speak. And it will be tomorrow, I assume. We've delayed this, meaning the Republican senators, not me. The Republican senators have delayed this for weeks now. They're giving the women a major chance to speak. Now, it's possible I'll hear that and I'll say, hey, I'm changing my mind. That is possible. We want to give them a chance to speak. And they're given. Well, whoever is given a chance, we've delayed it a long time, but they're going to have a big shot at speaking and making their case. And you know what? I could be persuaded also. Okay? And they're given. Yes, please, go ahead. Go ahead. I'd like to go. Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. And a couple of questions for you to follow up on some answers that I didn't quite hear from you. If you would allow me a couple of questions. First of all, do you think these women, all 3 of them, are liars? Yes or no?
Have they been what?
Are they liars?
I can't tell you. I have to watch tomorrow. I have to read it. I just heard about one a little while ago. I can tell you her lawyer is a lowlife, okay? So I can't tell you whether or not they're liars until I hear them. I don't know what happened today because I've been very busy with Japan, with South Korea, with China, and about 7 other countries, as you know. And I chaired the Security Council. So I don't know about today's person that came forward. I do know about the lawyer. And you don't get much worse, bad reputation to take a look at his past. So as far as the other women are concerned, I'm going to see what happens tomorrow. I'm going to be watching. You know, believe it or not, I'm going to see what's said. It's possible that they will be convincing. Now, with all of that being said, I don't know about today's. Judge Brett Kavanaugh has been for many years one of the most respected people in Washington. He's been on, I guess you'd call it the second highest court. And every single person knows him. A lot of people know him well. And those people don't believe what's going on. I can always be convinced. I have to hear it.
It sounds like what you're saying is there is a situation, there is a scenario under which you would withdraw Brett Kavanaugh's nomination. Is that correct?
If I thought he was guilty of something like this, sure.
And you will wait until tomorrow to make up your mind?
I want to watch. I want to see. I hope I can watch. I'm meeting with a lot of countries tomorrow, but I will certainly in some form be able to watch. And I'll also rely on some very fair and talented Republican senators who, look, if we brought George Washington here and we said we have George Washington, the Democrats would vote against him, just so you understand. And he may have had a bad past, who knows? He may have had some, I think, accusations made. Didn't he have a couple of things in his past? George Washington would be voted against 100% by Schumer and the colonists. I mean, 100%, 100%. So it really doesn't matter from their standpoint. That's why when John asked about the FBI, if the FBI did the most thorough investigation in the history of the FBI, and they found him to be 100% perfect, he would lose every single vote. Now, if the Republicans win tomorrow, I think you're going to get some votes from the Democrats. You know why? Because we all know why, because it's called politics. Then you'll probably get some votes. Okay, let's go. One more question? Yes. She stands up. I'd like to ask about 3 questions. It's not really fair to everyone else, but should I let her ask another question? Go ahead. See?
Follow up on a question my colleague asked as well about the benefit of the doubt towards
One more question.
Paul Rogers, Patrick Riley, Brett Kavanaugh. They're all men. Why is that?
It's not a benefit of the
Has there ever
doubt.
been an instance when you give them the benefit of the doubt?
I've known them, Haley. I've known them for a long time, and a lot of people. And some I've been disappointed. I have been disappointed. Some others, there were charges that are pretty weak. But I've known people for a long time. I never saw them do anything. I never saw them do anything. And there are some that probably I agree. I can tell you there are some that I've been watching for a long time. It's not a benefit. In a couple of cases they weren't Republicans. In a lot of cases they were not. They were exactly the opposite. But I've been watching them for a long time. And I knew for a long time these were not good people. And they were never brought up. Okay, yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Thank you very much. Thank you.
She said how important it was for Dr. Ford to testify and that you wanted to hear from her.
I do. I wish it could have gone quicker.
Well, you also said that if what she said were as bad as she claims, surely her or her parents would have reported it. And just today you said you would.
Well, there is a truth. I mean, there is a chance that her parents could have reported it 36 years ago. It doesn't mean they had to report it because in some instances people keep it quiet. It's a very tough situation for a woman. There's no question about it. And in some cases they do report it. Frankly, had they reported it, it would have been pretty amazing, wouldn't it? But I guess they didn't, and that's okay. I'm not saying they had to report it because it's a very personal thing. It's a very big problem. There's no question about it. Go ahead.
I'd like to hear the story.
I'd like to hear a story. Yeah. Well, we're giving her time.
You made up your mind.
They would have given her time last week. This is the United States Senate. This is the most important position that a president can give out. I think we can say by far. I've actually heard it's the most important decision a president can make. I disagree with that. War and peace. I always say war and peace. And after that, Supreme Court justice. Right? I look forward to hearing from her. We could have heard from her last week. We could have heard from her for a long time. It'll be interesting to hear what she has to say.
Let me follow up on Jim's question. Mr. President, let me follow up on Jim's question that I don't think we got an answer to.
Which one? Which question?
How are your personal experiences being accused by more than a
I've been accused. I've been accused. False accusation. Excuse me. I've been accused. And I was accused by, I believe it was 4 women. You can check with Sean Hannity. You can check with Fox because they covered it very strongly. Who got paid? Excuse me. I was accused by 4 or 5 women who got paid a lot of money to make up stories about me. We caught them, and the mainstream media refused to put it on television. They refused to even write about it. There were 4 women, and maybe more. I think the number is 4 or 5. One had a mortgage paid off her house, $52,000. Another one had other things happen. And the one that reported it, I believe, was offered $750,000 to say bad things about me. And she's the one that reported it. This woman is incredible. She reported it instead of taking the money. So I've had numerous accusations about me. They made false statements about me, knowing they were false. I never met them. I never met these people. And what did they do? What did they do? They took money in order to say bad things. I've had stories written in the New York Times front page about I said, wow, that's a big thing. What's that? These were women that were quoted saying bad things about me. Not the worst things about me, but bad things. And I said, gee, that's too bad. I knew them a long time ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I said, that's too bad. I'm surprised at that. And then all of a sudden I see him on television, nothing to do with me. The next day or a day later, they were incensed. They said, Donald Trump is a nice guy. We never said this. The New York Times did false reporting. They're fake news. And you know what? The New York Times would not report that their story was fake. These women said great things. Not only did they not say the bad stuff, they said great things about me. Front page. And those women, they're incredible women, they went on television, and they didn't want to, and I didn't ask them. And they said the New York Times made it up. They gave false quotes. And they went on a lot of shows. They were really incensed and they couldn't believe it. That's why people know that a lot of the news is fake. And a lot of the people sitting here are fake. But 20% of them are wonderful. Okay?
If I could just actually ask my question, Mr. Trump. You didn't let me ask my question.
You've been asking a question for 10 minutes. Please sit down. Please, go ahead. Go ahead.
Those impact your opinion on the allegations?
Well, it does impact my opinion. You know why? Because I've had a lot of false charges made against me. I'm a very famous person, unfortunately. I've been a famous person for a long time. But I've had a lot of false charges made against me. Really false charges. I know friends that have had false charges. People want fame, they want money, they want whatever. So when I see it, I view it differently than somebody sitting home watching television where they say, oh, Judge Kavanaugh, this or that. It's happened to me many times. I've had many false charges. I had a woman sitting in an airplane and I attacked her while people were coming onto the plane, and I have a #1 bestseller rap. I mean, it was a total phony story. There are many of them. So when you say, does it affect me in terms of my thinking with respect to Judge Kavanaugh? Absolutely, because I've had it many times. And if the news would have reported these 4 people, I couldn't believe it. When I heard that they caught these 4 people, I said, wow, that's a big story. And it was for Fox. That's right. That's what I hear. That's what I hear.
What evidence do you have of that, sir? Is there an
We have evidence. We have evidence. It'll come out. Yeah, I can't tell you now, but it didn't come out of nowhere that I can tell you. Now, they've actually admitted that they're going after farmers. I think most of you can come. I like that you're shaking. I can't tell you. I'm going to ask you the next question because you're probably going to be the killer of all questions. They've actually, but let me just explain. China now put on $250 billion, and they're paying 25% of it. They're paying billions and billions. This has never happened to China. I like China. I like President Xi a lot. I think he's a friend of mine. He may not be a friend of mine. Nobody I think he's about this. From what I hear, if you look at Mr. Pillsbury, the leading authority on China, he was on a good show. And he was saying that China has total respect for Donald Trump. Donald Trump's very, very large brain. He said Donald Trump, they don't know what to do with it. Never happened. Well, one thing they're trying to do is they're trying to convince people to go against him because a normal, regular, political person that has no concept of what the hell he's doing would let China continue to take $500 billion a year out of our country and rebuild their country. And they were building 29 massive bridges like the George Washington Bridge. They're building things that we don't build anything $500 a year. Now we're starting to build it again. And our economy now is hotter than it's ever been. I don't know if you saw the confidence levels this morning that just came out. Fantastic. And in all fairness to the Fed raising rates because we've never done like we're doing now. And one of the things that is nice about the rates, the people that were hurt the worst by these zero interest rates, the Fed, when President Obama had an economy that was the worst
comeback since the Great Depression and all that. You've all heard that. But remember, he was playing with zero interest money. He was playing with funny money. That's easy. I'm playing with fairly expensive money. So when he dipped that, the people that benefit are people that actually, in their whole life, they would save 10, 15, 20% of their salary, put it in the bank. Those people got killed because they put their money in the bank. They were going to live off the interest. And there was no interest. Now, those people are starting to get interest. And those are the people, frankly, that deserve to, they did a great job. The people that did it right, the people that did the best job got hurt the most. So in one sense, I like it, but basically, I'm a low interest rate person, I hate to tell you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. President,
yes.
We have another meeting tomorrow with Rod Rosenstein.
Yes.
Are you planning to fire Rod Rosenstein?
I'm talking to him. We've had a good talk. He said he never said it. He said he doesn't believe it. He said he has a lot of respect for me. And he was very nice. And listen, and he's a member of the Trump administration in that sense, Justice Department.
I would certainly prefer not doing that. There was no collusion. There was no obstruction. I mean, unless you call obstruction the fact that I fight back, I do fight back. I really fight back. I mean, if you call that obstruction, that's fine. But there's no obstruction. There's no collusion. I'm going to meet with him tomorrow. I may call Rod tonight or tomorrow and ask for a little bit of a delay to the meeting because I don't want to do anything that gets in the way. I would certainly prefer not doing very important Justice Department Supreme Court pick. I would certainly prefer not doing that. There was no collusion. There was no obstruction. No collusion. There was no obstruction. The fact that I fight back. Obstruction. The fact that I fight back. I do fight back. I'm going to see. I don't want to do anything that's going to conflict with them. But my preference would be to keep him tomorrow and to let him finish up Rod tonight or tomorrow and ask for a little bit of a delay to the meeting because I don't want to do. I certainly prefer not doing that. I would certainly no collusion. There was no obstruction. No obstruction. The fact that I fight back. Obstruction. The fact that I fight back. I do fight back. I claim taking $700,000 from me. Would certainly prefer not doing that. There was no collusion. There was no obstruction. There was no obstruction. The fact that I fight back. Obstruction. The fact that I fight back.
And he's in charge of her campaign and his wife is there. No collusion to run. To run. Obstruction. The fact that I fight back. Obstruction. The fact that I fight back. Way to go, Paige. Great story.
Would certainly prefer not doing that. There was no collusion. There was no obstruction. There was no obstruction. The fact that I fight back. Obstruction. The fact that I fight back.
I much prefer Hitler would certainly Rod Rosenstein. Much prefer. Many people say I have the right to have my own obstruction. He said he didn't say obstruction. He said he does not believe that. And nobody in this room believes it. By the way, I do prefer not doing that. There's no collusion. There's no very high level obstruction. The fact that I fight back. Obstruction. The fact that I fight back. Things that nobody in the room even understood. And I said him a long time ago, and I was right. He said, that's not the 25th Amendment that I'm looking at. I think I can say that from my lips.
You don't think anyone in your administration has ever discussed using the 25th Amendment against you?
I don't think so. Well, yeah, enemies, sure. Enemies. You use anything you can. Hey, you use anything you can. They're not in love with me. They're not going to beat me in the election. I fight back. I'm looking at our total lightweights. I dream of running against those people. Maybe I'll come up with somebody that's not.
He said that's not the 25th Amendment.
I'm against what they want to do. I'm in favor of law enforcement. I'm in favor of safety and security and low taxes. I want low taxes. I want borders. We're getting another 1.6 billion in borders. I want borders. We've spent 3.2 and we're getting another 1.6. And then eventually we're getting the whole thing. We'll complete the wall.
He said that's not the 25th Amendment.
They don't want somebody that he said that's not the 25th Amendment. And again, it's the same way. They'll say things. They don't think they first possible. They don't want what they've done here is a disgrace.
He said that's not the 25th.
He's a fascist. He's taking over the government. He's the most powerful president ever. He's a horrible human being. He wants to take over the entire government, and he's going to do it. We can't stop him. That didn't work. He's incompetent. In one case, they're taking over his life, and in the other case, he's incompetent. They tried that for weeks.
That's not the 25th. He said that's not the 25th. Wow, that's a lot of hands. That's a lot of Steve. Go ahead. He's a very high-quality person. This man, they'll probably give him with a bad one. Go ahead, give it to me. Give it to me. Reuters.
You're getting letters from Chairman Kim. Why do you need a second summit with the North Korean leader so soon?
Because he'd like, what would he be for? So I received 2 letters from the 25th. At some point, I'll they're incredible. Wow, that's a lot. They're letters that are magnificent. His feelings for wanting to get this done. I really believe it. I may be wrong. I heard somebody on a certain network. Why has President Trump given so much to North Korea? I said, wait a minute. I asked Sarah Huckabee, please call this person. He said that's not the 25th. Other than I met, what did I give him? I didn't do what Obama did, give him $1.8 billion in cash to get back 4 hostages. I got back. That's a lot of Steve. Go ahead. I paid him 10 cents. But he wants to make a deal, and I'd like to make a deal. We actually have a very good relationship together, a lot different than the last time we was at the United Nations. That was a little bit rough. Don't forget, that time, they said, go ahead, give it to me. These horrible things. He's going to get us into a war. You're going to have a war. If I wasn't elected, you'd be in a war. And President Obama essentially said the same thing. He was ready to go to war. You would have had a war and you would have lost millions, not thousands. You would have lost millions of people. Seoul has 30 million people, 40 miles and 30 miles from this very dangerous border. If I wasn't elected, you would have had a war. President Obama thought you had to go to war. You know how close he was to pressing the trigger to make it? Millions of people. With me, nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about that at the United Nations. We have a little bit rough. Don't forget. He likes me. I like him. We get along. He wrote me 2 of the most beautiful letters. When I showed one of the letters to Prime Minister Obama, he said this is actually a groundbreaking letter. This is an incredible, this is a historic letter. And it is a historic letter. It's a beautiful piece of art. And I think we're going to make a deal. Will we make a deal, Steve? I don't really know. But I think we're going to. In the meantime, don't forget, no rockets, no missiles, no nuclear tests, for over a year. You haven't seen it. Before I got here, everybody in this room thought you were going to war. And then what happened, it was funny. They said he was terrible. He was so rough with Chairman Kim Jong-un. He was so rough. It's terrible. He's going to go from. Well, I had a great meeting with President Putin. And on that one, they said he was too soft with President Putin. I had a great meeting with President. It lasted 2 hours. We discussed everything. Ukraine, Syria, Israel, and Israel's protection. We had a great meeting. A little bit rough. Don't forget, they wanted me to end up in a boxing match. And you know what? If I was killer tough with President Putin, they would have said he was too tough. You can't win with these people, but you just keep going. In the meantime, you're doing well. Go ahead.
How long do you think it should take North Korea to do?
I don't know. I don't want to get into
estimates of 1 year.
Steve, I don't want to get into the time game. You know why? I told Mike Pompeo, I said, Mike, don't get into the time. We stopped them. Taken down plans. They're taking down a lot of different testing areas. They're going to take down some more. You'll be hearing about that very soon. I don't want to go ahead of myself, but you'll be hearing about it soon. They have no interest right now in testing nuclear. We had a case just about when I was coming into office, you'll remember it, where there was a massive, they thought it was an earthquake. A mountain moved over an inch and a half. We're talking about mountains. North Korea is very mountainous, beautiful land, beautiful. This mountain actually
actually shifted. It shifted. And somebody thought it was an earthquake. And then they found out, no, this was nuclear testing. Shifted amount. I'm talking about serious stuff, serious size. When I came in, and certainly before I came, don't forget, and even at the beginning of the month, because when I was having rhetorical contests, really, I guess you could call it, with Chairman Kim, which we both smile at now when we laugh at it. But everybody thought that was a horrible thing. We've had many presidents who were unable to do anything at all with North Korea. We now have a good relationship. We have a good relationship. And most importantly, all of the things that you've been hearing about, the horror stories, in my opinion, they're not. Now, could they start up again? Yes. I'm a deal guy myself. Could they start? Yeah. Could be that we don't work it out. I think, I have it right here. I think that what we've done behind the scenes, which nobody really knows about, and I don't blame you for not knowing about personal letters, private letters, saying they want to get it done. We know much more than the media for a change. Much more. But if you saw what's going on behind the scenes, I think you'd be very impressed. We were a country going to war. I really believe that President Obama would admit that he said it's by far his biggest problem. When I sat with him prior to going into office, he said to me that's by far the biggest problem. And he said to me that he was very close to going into war. And millions of people, not, they say, oh, thousands of people. No, not thousands. Millions of people would have been killed. And that could have left, you're right next to China, that could have been a world war very easily. Right now, we're in a great position. I don't want to play the time game. I told Mike Pompeo, don't let them do that to you. I haven't given anything. And all of a sudden, we got back, it was a few weeks ago. I think we were back like 2.5 months from the summit, which was a great success. And people are screaming, what's taking so long? I said, oh, I get it. You got to understand the media. I've been dealing with the media all my life, too much. Too much. They're screaming, and I saw that. And our guys were, and not mine, but our guys were being, oh, well, we're working as fast. I said, I got all the time in the world. I don't have to rush it. There's no, cessation of sanctions. We got the sanctions on. I didn't take any sanctions on. I did see a reporter last night, a guy I like personally a lot, and he asked a question to President Moon of South Korea. He said, why did the president give so much? I didn't give anything. I gave nothing. What have I given? Other than some time. Yes, I flew to Singapore. We had a meeting. Now, giving would be if I took the sanctions off too much. I didn't want to do, if you asked General Mattis for a year and a half, I said, why don't we stop these ridiculous, in my opinion, the military games. I call them the military games. If I told you how much those games cost, and frankly, I told South Korea, you should be paying for these games. We pay for them. They say, well, we fly the planes in from a short distance away. I said, where is that? Guam. Oh, how long a trip is that? 7 hours. Oh, great. We're flying these massive bombers and everything. I wanted to stop this for a long time. I consider that an asset. But we've done, we're saving, by the way, just for the tax, we're saving a fortune. And if we need them, we can start them up immediately. If I think we need them, I'll start them before the generals will start. The fact is, this reporter said that. I said, what have we done? I haven't given anything. And we're really on to the cusp. I think we're really going to do something that's going to be very important. But we're not playing the time game. If it takes 2 years, 3 years, or 5 months, it doesn't matter. There's no nuclear testing, and there's no testing of rockets. Yes, ma'am, go ahead. Go ahead, please. This is the one that was nodding with every nice thing I said, so watch this question. You're with who? Okay, good, Sky News. Congratulations on the purchase.
Nothing to do with me.
I hope you benefited. Go ahead.
Are you at all concerned at the message that has been being sent to the women who are watching this when you use use language like con job in relation to allegations
I've used
of
much
sexual
worse
assault.
language in my life than con job. That's like probably the nicest phrase I've ever used. I mean, con job. It is. It's a con job. You know, confidence. It's a confidence job, but they should. It's a con job by the Democrats. They know it.
What about the message that's being
They
sent
did the
to
same
women
thing with the Russia investigation. They tried to convince people that I had something to do with Russia. There was no collusion. Think of it. I'm in Wisconsin. I'm in Michigan. I say, gee, we're not doing well. I won both those states. We're not doing well. Let me call the Russians to help. Does anybody really believe that? It's a con job. And I watch these guys, little Adam Schiff and all of the guys. He takes a call from a Russian who turned out to be a faker. You know, he was a comedian or something. This is so-and-so calling for... He took the call. Why is he taking a call from a Russian? Senator Warner took a call from a Russian. He was a comedian or something. But he said, we have pictures of President Trump. Whoa, where can I get him? If we ever did that, it would be like a big deal. Yeah, it's a con job, and it's not a bad term. It's not a bad term at all. I'll tell you one thing I can say. I've had a lot of people talking about this to me with respect to what's happening, because it's a horrible precedent. I'm going to have to get other judges and other Supreme Court judges, possibly. I could have a lot of Supreme Court judges, more than two from a Russian who turned out to be. And when I called up Brett Kavanaugh, spoke to him and his family and told them that I chose them, I was so happy and so honored. It was as though, I mean, the biggest thing that's ever happened. And I understand well, U.S. Supreme Court. I don't want to be in a position where people say, no thanks, no thanks. I'll tell you one thing I can, you know, I spoke to somebody 38 years ago and from a Russian, it may not be good. We have a country to run. We want the best talent in the country. But I'll tell you this, the people that have complained to me about it the most, about what's happening, are women. Women are very angry. You know, I got 52% with women. Everyone said this couldn't happen, 52%. And women are so angry. I'll tell you one thing I can say. And I frankly think that they like what the Republicans are doing, but I think they would have liked to have seen it go a lot faster. But give them their day in court. Let her have her day in court. Let somebody else have a day in court. But the ones that I find, I mean, I have men that don't like it, but I have women that are incensed at what's going on. I've always said women are smarter than men. I've said that a lot, and I mean it. But women are incensed at what's going on. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead in the back. Who are you, or where are you from? Yeah, you. Guy looks like he's shocked. That's not. This is going to be not good.
It's going to be good.
The guy looks totally like stunned. Have you ever been picked before for a question?
Yes, sir, but not from President.
Go ahead. Give me a.
Thank you very much. My name is Majid Gili from Rudal Media Network. I want to, sir, ask you. You always talk about.
Excuse me. You said where? From where?
Rudal Media Network from Kurdistan region of Iraq. I'm a Kurd.
Good. Good.
Sir,
great people.
Thank you, sir.
Great
Mr.
people.
Mr. President,
thank you. Are you a Kurd?
Mr. President.
Good. They're great people. They're great fighters. I like them a lot. Let's go. I like this question.
Mr. President, you always say you support your allies. Kurds right now, after the defeat of ISIS, are under a lot of pressure in Syria and in Iraq by many adversaries.
It's true.
What will you do to elevate their position, to support them, in order after they help the United States to defeat ISIS?
Well, we are helping them a lot, and we've been very friendly with them. As you know, we've fought side by side, and we have defeated ISIS essentially a very short while ago in the Middle East, and we did it with a lot of help from the Kurds, and they're great fighters. You know, some people are great fighters, and some people are. The Kurds are great fighters, and they're great people, and we're discussing that situation exactly right now.
What will you do to support this?
Well, I'm just telling you, we're going to be discussing that situation. We have already started discussing that situation, but we have had tremendous support from the Kurds in defeating ISIS.
And about Syria, sir, in your speech, it was mentioned that
Go.
You don't need it.
Mr. President, Susan Lee from Fox Business. Did you reject a one-on-one meeting with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau?
Yeah, I did.
Why?
Because his tariffs are too high and he doesn't seem to want to move, and I told him, forget about it. And frankly, we're thinking about just taxing cars coming in from Canada. That's the mother lode, that's the big one. We're very unhappy with the negotiations and the negotiating style of Canada. We don't like their representative very much. They've taken advantage. I love Canada, by the way. I have so many friends. I have everybody, so many friends. But that has nothing to do with this. I'm representing the United States. Mexico was totally, I mean, they were great. By the way, the new president has been great. The deal is done now. Go through Congress, and a lot of things have to happen. But we've done. Bob Lighthizer, who's here someplace. Where's Bob? Bob Lighthizer has done a great job of negotiating, as they have. But the deal is done. It's up to Congress. But Canada has treated us very badly. They've treated our farmers in Wisconsin and New York State and a lot of other states very badly. Dairy products, 300%. 300%. How do you sell a dairy product at 300%? The answer is you don't. What it is a barrier. It's basically they're saying, we don't have any barriers. By the way, it's 300%, so you don't send it in because you can't compete. So Canada has a long way to go. I must be honest with you, we're not getting along at all with their negotiators. We think their negotiators have taken advantage of our country for a long time. We had people that didn't know what they were doing, and that's why we had over the last 5 or 6 years, if you average it out, we had $800 billion a year in trade losses. It's ridiculous. It's not going to happen.
What about NAFTA? Sir, Mr. President, NAFTA. What does that mean for NAFTA? Will you be pulling out of NAFTA?
I don't like NAFTA. I never liked it. It's been very bad for the United States. It's been great for Canada. It's been great for Mexico. Very bad for us. I'm not going to use the name NAFTA. I refuse to use it. I've seen thousands of plants and factories closed. I've seen millions of jobs lost to auto companies that moved. I mean, Mexico has 25% of our auto business now because of NAFTA. Under our deal, it's not going to happen anymore. I hate to tell you, we're going to keep companies. And I told the Mexicans, I said, we have to keep companies, but they're getting a lot also. They're getting other things. They're getting a lot of good things. Mexico made a very good deal. But with Canada, it's very tough. What we're doing is, if we made a deal with Canada, which is a good chance still, but I'm not taking anything near what they want to do.
But you're going to notify Congress of
what we're probably going to do is call it the USMC, like the United States Marine Corps, which I love. General Kelly likes it even more. Where's General Kelly? He likes that. USMC, which would be US, Mexico, Canada. But it'll probably or possibly be just USM. It'll be United States and Mexico. Canada will come along. Now, if Canada doesn't make a deal with us, we're going to make a much better deal. We're going to tax the cars that come in. We will put billions and billions of dollars into our treasury. And frankly, we'll be very happy because it's actually more money than you can make under any circumstance with making a deal. Good job, dude. You do a very good job. Really. Yes, please, Mr. Kurd. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for your time, Mr. President. 2 quick questions. What will be the USA relations with the Kurds?
Oh, I thought I just answered.
Post-ISIS.
Okay, we're trying to get along very well. We do get along great with the Kurds. We're trying to help them a lot. Don't forget, that's their territory. We have to help them. I want to help them. Go ahead, what's next? They fought with us. They fought with us. They died with us. They died. We lost tens of thousands of Kurds died fighting ISIS. They died for us and with us and for themselves. They died for themselves. But they're great people. And we have not forget. We don't forget. I don't forget. What happens someday later, but I can tell you that I don't forget. These are great people. Okay. Yes, ma'am, please.
About Iran, Mr. President, about Iran, one question. What is your clear plan to stop Iranian influence in Iraq, in Syria, and especially in Iraq?
I think you've seen that. I must tell you, I don't mind your question. If that happens to be, I'll get to it once. Thank you. I think there's been no greater change, other than maybe China, because China, unfortunately, the markets have dropped. Would you say 30% in the last 4 months, right? think I watched you recently where you said that. I said, I think she's wrong. I think it's actually 32, but that's okay. But a lot. There's been no good other than maybe that, but even that. Because China is a very special place. And Iran is a very special place. But I think there's been no country that's changed so much as Iran. In the last 6 months, since I took off the horrible, horrible Iran nuclear deal, as they called it, one of those dumbest deals ever made. As an example, why didn't they take care of Yemen in the deal? Why didn't they take care of Syria in the deal? You know what Kerry said the reason? It was too complicated. We're given $150 billion. We paid $1.8 billion in cash. This whole room would be filled up with $100 bills. And you'd need probably 5 rooms like this. We gave $1.8 billion in cash. Why didn't we take care of Yemen? Why didn't we take care of Syria and other? And he said, because it was too complicated. When you just gave all your cards, you gave $150 billion. And now Yemen's a mess, but it's getting better. And Syria's a mess. And I was responsible, and I hope it stays that way, when I put out on social media a few weeks ago about Idlib province. I said, don't do it. I'll tell you, it happened where I was at a meeting with a lot of supporters, and a woman stood up and she said, there's a province in Syria with 3 million people. Right now, the Iranians, the Russians, and the Syrians are surrounding that province. And they're going to kill my sister, and they're going to kill millions of people in order to get rid of 25,000 or 35,000 terrorists, or enemies of theirs, but I think we can call them terrorists. And I said, that's not going to happen. And I didn't hear of Idlib province. And I came back to New York, and I picked up the failing New York Times. I hate to admit it was the New York Times, but it was the failing New York Times. And I opened it up, not on the front page, but there was a very big story. I said, wow, that's the same story that the woman told me that I found hard to believe, because how would anyone do that with 3 million people? And it said that they were being surrounded, and they were going in and starting literally the next day, they were going to drop bombs all over the place and perhaps kill millions of people in order to get 35,000 terrorists. And I put out on social media and elsewhere, I gave Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, everybody these orders. Don't let it happen. I said it. Don't let it happen. That doesn't mean they can't be selective. They can't be, go in and they've got to do what they've got to do with terrorists, assume the terrorists, and don't kill millions of people. And it stopped. You saw it. Nobody's going to give me credit, but that's okay. That's okay, because the people know. I have had more Syrians thank me for that. This was about 4 weeks ago I put that out. I said, they're surrounding a city of 3 million people. They're going to start bombing the city. Don't let it happen. And I meant it too. I meant it. And millions of people have been saved. And I gave today great credit to Iran. I don't know if you heard that. I gave great credit to Iran, to Russia, and to Syria for not doing it. Now I hope it's going to be surgical, meaning go in and do it's lengthy and everything else, and they possibly have to do it. But I think millions of people would have been killed, and that would have been a shame. And hopefully, and I have to tell you, Turkey has been a big help. Turkey has been great. Turkey has helped us very much with that whole situation. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Good, thank you very much.
Touching back on Iran, of course, this week you put out a call to action to other countries to rally with America to put pressure on Iran. Rouhani still calling for the U.S. to come back into the old deal. But after meeting with world leaders this week, did you make any progress towards a potential new deal?
It doesn't matter what world leaders think on Iran. Iran's going to come back to me and they're going to make a good deal. I think. Maybe not. Deals. You never know. But they're suffering greatly. They're having riots in every city, far greater than they were during the Green period with President Obama. Far greater. When President Obama stuck up for government, not the people. He probably would have had a much different Iran had he not done that. But I'm sticking up for the people. I am with the people of Iran. But here's the thing. They have rampant inflation. Their money is worthless. Everything is going wrong. They have riots in the street. You can't buy bread. You can't do anything. It's a disaster. At some point, I think they're going to want to come back and they want to say, hey, can we do something? And I'm very simple. I just don't want them to have nuclear weapons. That's all. Is that too much to ask? I don't want them to have nuclear weapons. I want them to have a great economy. I want them to sell so much oil so that the oil prices, I'm not happy with OPEC. I told them, I'm not happy with OPEC. We take care of all these people. We defend them. They wouldn't be there for 2 weeks if it wasn't for me and the United States and our much stronger armed forces than it was. Because our armed forces was depleted. We had old equipment. Now we have, hey, you know better than anybody, 700 billion and 716 billion. We have the most incredible new jets and everything. We need it. Not that I want to spend it, although it is jobs. It's all made in the United States. But Iran has to come back and they have to talk. And I'm not doing this from strength or weakness. I'm just saying at some point I think they're going to have to come back. If you look at what's going on, companies are leaving left and right. Mercedes-Benz just left. They're all leaving. They don't want to be in Iran because they have a choice. Do they want to be with Iran or do they want to be with us? And we picked up $10 trillion since my election. We were being caught by China. Now it's going the other way. People can't believe it. People have never seen this situation with China. Everything's always been for 20 years. Oh, China's so great. China's so great. You don't hear that so much anymore. I love China. I think they're great. But you don't hear that so much anymore. You know who's great now? We're great now. Okay, how about just a couple of minutes? Now I could be doing this all day long. I could be doing this all day long. Should we continue for a little while? It doesn't matter to me. A couple of more? I don't care. New York Times. Come on, New York Times. The failing New York Times. Stand up. Go ahead. No, I'm talking about the Times is failing. You are far from failing. Go ahead.
Okay, but you're not. You were pointing to me, so you meant me.
The Times are very interesting, though. The Times. I think they're going to endorse me. I think that ABC, well, Fox, I like Fox, but I think ABC, CBS, NBC, The Times, Washington, they're all going to endorse me because if they don't, they're going out of business. Can you imagine if you didn't have me? Go ahead, what would you like to say?
Sure, I know you were pointing to me, but I work for PBS.
I know that. No, I know that.
Okay. So I want to ask you, yesterday you were talking about your administration's accomplishments at the United Nations, and a lot of the leaders laughed. Why do you think they were?
Well, that's fake news.
What was that experience?
Yeah, it's fake news. And it was covered that way. Okay. So I said that since my election, our economy has become the hottest in the world. Tax reductions, regulation, confidence levels are the highest. 18 years, really soon to be historic. Unemployment is the lowest in the history of our country. You look at black unemployment, you look at Asian unemployment, you look at women 65 years. The unemployment numbers are among the best we've ever had, ever. The numbers of new companies pouring into our country, which nobody thought was possible. And I said this, and I was in front of a large group of highly professional people, most of whom are from either other countries or the United Nations. People that aren't big into clapping, applauding, smiling. And I heard a little rustle. As I said, our country is now stronger than ever before. It's true. And I heard a little rustle. And I said, it's true. And I heard smiles. And I said, oh, I didn't know it could be that good. They weren't laughing at me. They were laughing with me. We had fun. That was not laughing at me. So, the fake news said people laugh. It's fake news. The president, they didn't laugh. People had a good time with me. We were doing it together. We had a good time. They respect what I've done. The United States is respected again. The United States was not respected. Everybody was taking advantage of us. From jobs and taking our companies and not paying the price to so many other things, even military protection. I told a number of countries over the last few days, I said, listen, you're a very rich country. We protect you. Without our protection, you would have real problems. You would have real problems. I I said, you should reimburse us for this protection. Why are we protecting you? And do you want to know what they said? After about 2 minutes of talking, they agreed with me. And you can ask this group of very talented people. They agreed with me. But they said, one of them said, Mr. President, nobody ever asked us. They never asked us. Nobody's ever said, you should pay. These are really wealthy. I mean, I'll be honest, I just asked Japan. I said, we're defending you. You're a very wealthy country. You're sending us millions of cars. You're making a fortune. We have a tremendous trade deficit with you. And we're defending you, and we're subsidizing your military with a massive amount of money. I said it to South Korea. We have 32,000 soldiers in South Korea. They're very wealthy. These are great countries. These are very wealthy countries. I said, why aren't you reimbursing us for our costs? And you know what? They look at me, and they can't even answer, because there's no answer. If they're a poor country, and they needed protection, and people are going to die, I'm all for protecting them. I don't want 10 cents. But when wealthy countries that have massive trade surpluses with us, massive, and then on top of that, we're paying for their military, or we're paying for a lot of their military, that doesn't work. How about 2 more and we'll...
Mr. President, really quickly, Mr. President, you said you feel a kinship. You said you feel a kinship with Brett Kavanaugh, and Mr. President, really quickly, you said you felt a kinship with Brett Kavanaugh. You said that you also, your false allegations that you feel like were made against you make you feel like you don't want to believe these women. What message do you...
I didn't say that. Why do you say that?
Please
fake news. Why did I say that?
Well, can you please explain then what you're talking about your...
By the way, I think you do a very good job, but I didn't say that. I do watch you. I think you do a very good job, but I didn't say that.
Could you explain?
I said, exactly, I look forward to watching her. I do want to hear what she says. And maybe she'll say, I could be convinced of anything. Maybe she'll say something. But in the meantime, I have to tell you, he's one of the highest quality human beings. He's a tremendous man. He's a tremendous genius. He's a great intellect. He was, I believe, #1 at Yale. Is that a correct statement? #1 in his class at Yale. He was a great student in law. He was, you know, I've heard his name. I didn't know him. Didn't know him until this whole thing. I didn't know him. But I heard his name for 10 years. And you know how I heard his name? Everybody was saying he should be on the Supreme Court. I said, who is he? His name is Brett Kavanaugh. And he should be. He's the most brilliant person. He's the most brilliant lawyer. They were talking about him on the Supreme Court 10 years ago. With all of that, I want to hear what she has to say.
You said that you said that you feel like there are numerous false allegations against you, and that
I've had many false. I've had many false statements against me, and if the press would have reported, I would have been very happy. I think John Roberts would tell you that you covered the story where the women were paid to say bad things about me. Sean Hannity covered it. I will tell you, when I saw that on Sean Hannity, I actually called him. Believe it or not, I don't speak to him very much. I respect him. I called him. I said, this is the biggest story. This is a big story. He agreed with me. The next day I picked up the papers. There wasn't one word about it. The next day I watched ABC News, John. I watched NBC. I watched CBS. I didn't watch CNN, but next time I'll go.
And are you okay with...
I watched everything. There wasn't one story other than and it's a big story. It's a shame. Okay, enough. Thank you, Doug. Thank you. Thank you.
Is it okay if I give it to the New York Times, Mr.
Go ahead.
President?
That's enough, please. Good job. Good job.
Mr. President, could I ask a question since I am from the New York Times before this gentleman?
Because you're where?
I'm actually from the New York Times. Yamiche is my former colleague, and we miss her. But I was hoping...
I don't blame you, but I'll let you do it after he does. Is that okay? I will. In honor of the paper I once loved.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, my name is Edward Zoll with True News. Today you met with Bibi Netanyahu from Israel, and you brought up actually that you supported a two-state solution for the Palestinian-Israeli crisis there. Can you give us any more preview of what this great deal, the peace...
Well, I'd love to be able to make a deal with the Israelis and the Palestinians. You know, my whole life I was told that's the toughest deal. And I disagree. I think healthcare is probably tougher. Okay, you want to know that. But it is tough. So we're going to take care of that too. And that's going to get taken care of. We've already taken care of a lot of that. But my life, I've always heard the deal between, as you know, Israel and the Palestinians things. That's like the toughest thing. Every possible thing is tough about that. I think we're going to make a deal. I think we're going to make a deal. So at one of our many meetings today, I was with Bibi Netanyahu, a man who I have a lot of respect for, a man who's been extremely nice to me, and very happy that I did the whole thing with Jerusalem and the embassy, which, by the way, we got open in 4 months for less than $500,000, and the budget was over $1 billion, right? Yes. So we saved, let's say, $1 billion. That's not so bad, and it's open, and it's beautiful, by the way. Jerusalem stone, one of my favorite stones. I will tell you the question. Somebody said today, well, this is the first news conference in a long time. I said, what do you mean? I did like 5 today. Every time I sit, I take a lot of questions from people that are screaming like maniacs in the back of the room, meaning reporters. And one of the reporters, I won't say that it was John Roberts that said that, but one of the, it wasn't, but that's okay, don't feel guilty. But one of the reporters that was screaming asked about the 1-state, 2-state. And I said, I think the 2-state will happen. I think it's in one way more difficult because it's a real estate deal. Because you need meets and bounds and you need lots of carve-outs and lots of everything. It's actually a little tougher deal. But another way it works better because you have people governing themselves. So they asked me about that. I said, well, I think the 2-state will happen. I think we're going to go down the 2-state road. And I'm glad I got it out. And Jared, who is so involved, he loves Israel. He loves Israel. But he's also going to be very fair with the Palestinians. He understands it takes 2 people to be happy, 2 groups of people to be happy. Everybody's got to be happy. And that's why it's so tough. Because there's been so much hatred and anger for so many years. That's what probably the #1 ingredient of toughness is. But they asked me, I said, I think it's going to be a 2-state. And you know what I did today? By saying that, I put it out. And if you ask most of the people in Israel, they agree with that. But nobody wanted to say it. It's a big thing to put it out. It's a very big thing to put it out. Now, bottom line, if the Israelis and the Palestinians want 1 state, that's okay with me. If they want 2 states, that's okay with me. I'm happy if they're happy. I'm a facilitator. I want to see if I can get a deal done so that people don't get killed. When we had in Saudi Arabia, we had one of the great conferences in history. Many of you were there, probably all of you were there. It's one of the most beautiful 2 days. That and China. 2 of the most incredible events I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it. And we had, I believe, 58 Muslim countries. The leaders, the kings, the emirs, the absolute leaders from every... There was nobody in second place. They were the leaders of all. And unbeknownst to anybody else, people would come up to me individually. It wasn't a setup. They'd come up to me and say, sir, you can't have peace in the Middle East without peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. I said, why? What difference? Why does that matter so much? They said, it just is impossible to make peace in the Middle East unless you have between the Israelis. So I heard that from one, the king of Saudi Arabia, who's a great guy, King Solomon. And then somebody else came up, and he wasn't told, oh, go up and say it. I know where they're coming from. And I must have had 12 leaders say it, and they just said it. And I started to realize that peace between Israel and the Palestinians for the Middle East is a very important thing, and we're trying very hard to get it. I think probably 2-state is more likely, but you know what? If they do a single, if they do a double, I'm okay with it if they're both happy. If they're both happy, I'm okay with either. I think the 2-state is more likely. Okay, how about one? The New York Times? Okay. Thank you, sir. I would have gotten a bad story in the New York Times, but I will anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay, we'll do you, and we'll call it quits.
We're kind of thriving, not failing.
You're doing very well. Say thank you, Mr. Trump.
I think I'll stop short of that.
I wonder how you do. You know, all my life I've had very few stories, but I've had some on the front page of the New York Times. Now I think I average about 3 or 4 a day, right? And of the 3 or 4, they're all negative. No matter what I do, they're negative. But you know what? Thank you, Mr. Trump. That's okay. I still love the paper. Go ahead.
I wanted to come back to China because I think what you announced today was really important. You talk about this friendship you had with Xi Jinping, and yet essentially what you did today is accused his government of interfering in our internal affairs, subverting our democratic process, and doing it to hurt you, the Republican Party,
doing it to help them,
and your members.
Yeah, doing it to help.
So how can a guy who does that be your friend?
I think that we are able to, and maybe he's not. I'll be honest with you. I think we had a very good friendship. I think we had a very good relationship. We understand each other. They are doing studies on Donald Trump. They're trying to figure it out because this has never happened to them before. It's never happened. Think of it. You've never seen. You've covered very well. You've never seen this happen. They're having big problems. I don't want them to have problems, but they got to make a fair deal. Just like Canada's got to make a fair deal. I believe that he and I have a very good chemistry together. And I can tell you that about many because I can also tell you a few where I don't feel I'll ever have a chemistry with them. I don't want to have chemistry with them. And for those people, the 3 or 4 have Pompeo, Nikki, Bolton, Jared. I can go our general or have our general, or they can't do it, I'll have Sarah. And I can tell you that about many because I can also tell you, but for the most part, I don't feel very good with them. I don't want to have Prime Minister around. And for those people, the 3 or 4, by the way, when President Moon said Nikki, Bolton, Jared, Brett Baer, I can go our general or have our general, or they can't do it, I'll have Sarah. And I can tell you that about many. I can't say it, but for the most part, I don't feel very good with them. I don't want to have Prime Minister around. And for those people, the 3 or 4, by the way, when President Moon said Nikki, Bolton, Jared, Brett Baer, I can go our general or have our general, they can't do it, I'll have Sarah. And I can tell you that about many. I can't say it, I will tell you, for the most part, I don't feel China. I don't want to have Prime Minister special. And for those people, when President Moon said Nikki, it's incredible what they've done. And it all started with the WTO. It was a defective deal. Without the WTO, China is not China as we know it today. And then it started also by our people that are standing right in this position, that are in general office, and it all started with the WTO. Allowed a lot of countries to get away with it. Without the WTO, I think we still probably have a very good relationship. In honor of you, I will tomorrow make a call to him, say, hey, how you doing? Okay? Can I? You don't mind paying billions of dollars a month?
I just have two small follow-ups. One is, how would you compare the level of interference you see today from the Chinese to what Russia did in 2016?
Well, I think it's different. If you look at how you do Des Moines Register, you don't mind paying billions of dollars.
ऐसा लग रहा है एक बात बहुत बड़ी आप साथ को
saying about, oh, you got to stop Trump, you got to vote against it. My farmers are so good. These are
सांस ले रहे
on a network that doesn't like Des Moines
पागलपन करवाओ जो स्क्रीनशॉट कर रहा है ऐसा लग रहा है डिलीट कर दिया तुमने आप साथ को हाँ से समथिंग डिलीट कर दिया सांस ले रहे हाँ तो स्क्रीनशॉट दिखाओ पागलपन हाँ दिखाओ ऐसा लग रहा है डिलीट कर ऊपर आओ साथ को एक मिनट हाँ से समथिंग डिलीट कर दिया सांस ले रहे हाँ तो स्क्रीनशॉट दिखाओ हाँ दिखाओ डिलीट कर ऊपर यूट्यूब चैनल पे आओ ये लाइव चैनल पे आओ हाँ से समथिंग डिलीट कर दिया सांस ले रहे हाँ यहाँ से डिलीट करते हैं यहाँ कमेंट पे आओ कमेंट पे आओ हाँ दिखाओ कमेंट मतलब वो जो तुमने लिखा हुआ है साइड में ऊपर आओ चैनल पे आओ ये लाइव चैनल पे दिखाओ शायद ऊपर आओ और ऊपर जाओ डिलीट कर दिया कर्सर से ऊपर करो यहाँ से डिलीट ये देखो पीला पीला हाईलाइट हो रहा है कमेंट पे आओ यहाँ कमेंट मतलब वो जो तुमने लिखा हुआ है ये आया 3 डॉट ऊपर चैनल से ऊपर शायद ऊपर आओ और ऊपर जाओ तुम नया मैसेज कर बेटा जो चैट खोलो यहाँ से डिलीट ये देखो पीला पीला हाईलाइट हो रहा है कमेंट पे आओ यहाँ कमेंट मतलब वो जो तुमने लिखा हुआ नीचे करो 3 डॉट ऊपर चैनल से ऊपर और फर्दर डिटेल्स ये तुम नया ये इधर आओ नीचे आओ नीचे आओ ये देखो फिलअप ये देखो ये फॉर फर्दर डिटेल्स दिख रहा है ये बिटली के ऊपर यहाँ से कॉपी करो यहाँ लिखो से सब डिटेल्स ये तुम नया ये इधर आओ नीचे से समथिंग बता यहाँ फिलअप ये कर ये लाइव में जाने की जरूरत नहीं है चलो ठीक है कर दो यहाँ से कॉपी करो अब दूसरी चीज देखो डिस्क्रिप्शन जहाँ लाइव लिखा हुआ है ना वो हटाओ ये लाइव वाला सेक्शन हटाओ नीचे यहाँ लिखो ऑल द पॉलिटिक्स कवर्स कैन चेक आउट लाइव में जाने की जरूरत नहीं है चलो ठीक है कर दो यहाँ से कॉपी करो और डिस्क्रिप्शन नीचे आओ दूसरी चीज मैं तुम्हें डिस्क्रिप्शन देती हूँ डिस्क्रिप्शन जहाँ लाइव लिखा हुआ है ना वो हटाओ ये लाइव वाला सेक्शन हटाओ नीचे यहाँ लिखो ऑल द पॉलिटिक्स कवर्स कैन चेक आउट लाइव में जाने की जरूरत हम कभी नहीं करेंगे यहाँ से और डिस्क्रिप्शन नीचे मैं तुम्हें डिस्क्रिप्शन देती हूँ डिस्क्रिप्शन जहाँ लाइव लिखा हुआ है मैं बताऊँ मैं घर में चेंज लाइव वाला सेक्शन लाइव तो इतना ज़्यादा शॉक थे नहीं करेंगे और डिस्क्रिप्शन नीचे मैं तुम्हें डिस्क्रिप्शन जहाँ लाइव लिखा हुआ है मैं बताऊँ क्या आने वाला तुम्हें सिद्धार्थ सर की कब से चिंता होने लगी बस तुम 4 बजे तक और डिस्क्रिप्शन तुम तो खाने पीने पर ध्यान दो पानी पीने तुम ध्यान नहीं आ जाएगा मैंने 8 साल तक तुम्हें सिद्धार्थ सर की कब से चिंता होने लगी बस तुम 4 बजे तक खाना पीना ढंग से खाओ तुम तो खाने पीने पर ध्यान दो बस ये काम ही नहीं हो पाया तो तुम दिन में करोगे ना तुम दिन में करोगे आपसे चाहिए 1.5 महीने की बात 4 बजे और अभी भी मैं तुम्हें काफी रिलैक्स रखती हूँ खाना पीना बैठे खाओ तुम तो खाने सही है नहीं बस ये काम ही नहीं हो पाया तुम्हें और जगह है कि बेटा रात भर जगने की जरूरत नहीं तो तुम दिन में करोगे ना तुम दिन में करोगे आपसे चाहिए 1.5 महीने की बात 4 बजे और अभी भी मैं तुम्हें काफी रिलैक्स रखती हूँ खाना पीना बैठे खाओ और बस ये काम ही नहीं हो पाया तुम्हें और जगह है कि बेटा रात भर जगने की जरूरत नहीं तो तुम दिन में कोई बुरा नहीं और कैटेगरी बदलना नहीं आती तुम्हें कैटेगरी गेमिंग लगा रखा है ये डेट मैंने थोड़ा सा नई चीज़ पता लगाओ नहीं न्यूज़ है ना न्यूज़ है पॉलिटिक्स हाँ जी और जो मैंने अभी मैसेज भेजा इसको डिस्क्रिप्शन में डालेंगे और जो मैंने अभी मैसेज भेजा तो इतना घबरा गई हमारे धुंधला दिख रहा है जितनी भी बातें मैंने लिखी है ना वो नीचे डिस्क्रिप्शन में लिखना जो ऊपर ऑल लिंक नहीं मैंने मैसेज दिए हैं तो मैसेज ये क्या खोल दिया ये खोल ये हटाओ यहाँ जो ऊपर ऑल जो मैंने मैसेज दिया है तुम्हें पूरा बना हाँ पूरा मैसेज कॉपी
Always I heard you're innocent until proven guilty for so long. That's such a beautiful phrase. In this case, you're guilty until proven innocent. I think that is a very, very dangerous standard for our country. With that being said, I look forward to what she has to say. I'm also looking forward to
अब तुम्हें डेली जो भी तुम पोस्ट करोगे लाइव करोगे मुझे ये पूरी कहानी चाहिए ठीक है कुछ भी यहाँ पे अभी नजर नहीं आ रहा है पिटली नजर आ रहा है तुमने गलत नहीं तुम्हें
Please, ladies and gentlemen, remain seated as our delegation departs.
Sorry to miss one. You can listen
ये सुनना है क्या चीज चल रही है और ये सब लिखने की वजह से 4 लोग आ भी गए तुम्हारे पास जब तुम ये लिखोगे यहाँ पे तभी तो शो करेगा लोगों को ना ये सुनना है क्या चीज चल रही है यहाँ पे आगे और ये सब लिखने की वजह से 4 लोग आ भी गए अब सही चल रहा है तुम ये लिखोगे यहाँ पे तभी तो शो करेगा लोगों को इसको शुरू से स्टार्ट करो इतना टाइम चला गया ना यहाँ पे आगे और ये सब लिखने की वजह से ठीक है इसको शुरू से स्टार्ट करो ये लिखोगे यहाँ पे तभी तो शो करेगा लोगों को इसको शुरू से स्टार्ट करो इतना टाइम चला गया ना और ये सब लिखने की वजह से ठीक है इसको शुरू से स्टार्ट करो ये लिखोगे यहाँ पे तभी तो शो करेगा लोगों को इसको शुरू से स्टार्ट करो इतना टाइम चला गया ना और ये सब लिखने की वजह से ठीक है इसको शुरू से स्टार्ट करो नहीं लेकिन साइड नहीं इसको शुरू से स्टार्ट करो इतना टाइम चला गया ना इसकी लेंथ ये जो वीडियो है ना ये 0 से स्टार्ट करो नहीं के साइड नहीं जो कर्सर आगे तक बढ़ गया इसको सब पीछे कर दो लेंथ ये जो वीडियो है ना ये 0 से स्टार्ट करो टाइम बढ़ जाएगा
Very good deal. Just concluded, as you know, 2 days ago, signed a deal with South Korea, trade deal, tremendous deal with South Korea. It means a lot of business for our farmers. We're opening up for farmers. We're opening up for a lot of different groups. We're going to be able to sell much more than double the number of automobiles that we were allowed under the deal that was totally defective, that was there before. And so we're very happy with that. That deal was actually concluded. We're very well along the way with Mexico. The relationship is very good. And with Canada, we'll see what happens. They charging us 300% tariffs on dairy products. We can't have that. We can't have that. With China, as you know, we put out an announcement today. They would like to see me lose an election because they've never been challenged like this. But I want to open up China to our farmers and to our industrialists and our companies. And China is not open, but we're open to them. They charge us 25, 35, 55% for things, and we charge them nothing in terms of coming into the country. Cars, they're at 25%, and we're at 2% and 2.5%, and don't even collect it, but we collect it now. So we're doing very well in our situation with China on trade. I have a great relationship with the president of China, President Xi, but it's got to be a two-way street. It, for 25 years and longer, was not. And trillions of dollars was taken out of the United States for the benefit of China. We just can't have that. We have to make it fair. So we're at $250 billion now at 25% interest. And a lot of money is coming into our coffers. And it's had no impact on our, absolutely, by the way, no impact on our economy, which I said it wouldn't. In fact, steel is like the hottest industry there is. If you look at what happened with steel, we're charging a 25% tariff for the dumpers. They dump massive amounts of steel. They want to put the steel companies out of business. And after they're out of business, they'll come in and charge 5 times more than you ever thought possible. And we need steel and we need aluminum, and those industries are doing well. But steel is incredible. U.S. Steel is opening up a minimum of 8 plants. Nucor is opening up plants, and these are big plants, $750 million and $1 billion plants in some cases. So what's happening with the steel industry is very exciting to me. It's being rebuilt overnight. If you look at the miners and coal, if you look at energy, LNG, Japan just gave us some numbers that are incredible. They're doubling the amount that they're going to be buying for Japan. They're taking the LNG and they're doubling it up. I said, you have to do me a favor. We don't want these big deficits. You're going to have to buy more. They're buying massive amounts of equipment and military equipment. And other countries are doing the same thing because we have trade imbalances with almost everybody. It's a rare exception that we don't. So we are doing great as a country. Unfortunately, they just raised interest rates a little bit because we are doing so well. I'm not happy about that because I know it's going to be a question. I am not happy about that. I'd rather pay down debt or do other things, create more jobs. So I'm worried about the fact that they seem to like raising interest rates. We can do other things with the money. And but they raised them, And they're raising them because we're doing so well. You know, we're doing much better than I had projected in terms of when I was campaigning. I said we were going to do this, and we're doing much better than anybody ever thought possible. And I will say if others got in, it would have been just the opposite, because they were going to put restrictions on, they were going to put regulations on, they were going to choke the economy as it was already choking, but it would have been worse, and they were going to raise your taxes. That's what they want to do now if they ever got control, which I don't think they'll have control for a long time. So with that being said, we'll take some questions, and yes, please. John, go ahead. We have plenty of time.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Of course, what you're looking forward to tomorrow is the hearings with Judge Kavanaugh before the Judiciary Committee.
Yes.
In 1991, when Joe Biden passed along to the Bush 41 White House the allegations that Anita Hill had raised against Clarence Thomas, the Bush White House asked the FBI to look into it as part of Judge Thomas's background investigation. Not a criminal investigation, but the background investigation. Right. When these allegations were raised, why didn't this White House do the same thing? And with all the allegations that are coming out now about Judge Kavanaugh, was there an opportunity missed here to have investigators look into this and get some sort of clarity one way or the other?
Well, the FBI told us they've investigated Judge Kavanaugh 6 times, 5 times, many times over the years. They know him very well. But here there was nothing to investigate from at least one standpoint. They didn't know the location. They didn't know the time. They didn't know the year. They didn't know anything. And it's like, where do you go? Also, it's not for the FBI. If you look at what Joe Biden said, he said they don't do this. And he said it very clearly. So I think when you really look at it all, it's not going to change any of the Democrats' minds. They're obstructionists. They're actually con artists because they know how quality this man is, and they've destroyed a man's reputation, and they want to destroy it even more. And I think people are going to see that in the midterms, what they've done to this family, what they've done to these children, these beautiful children of his, and what they've done to his wife. And they know it's a big, fat con job. And they go into a room, and I guarantee you, they laugh like hell at what they pulled off on you and on the public. They laugh like hell. So it wouldn't have mattered if the FBI came back with the cleanest score, and you understand that very well, John. If they would have come back with the most perfect, we found everything and he's perfectly innocent of everything, it wouldn't have made a difference. You wouldn't have gotten one vote. Now, we will get votes from the Democrats if we win. You'll have 3, 4, or 5 Democrats giving us votes because they're in states that I won by 30 and 40 points, and they're going to give us votes. But other than that, you probably won't get any, John. Yes, go ahead, please.
Mr. President, there are now 3 women accusing Judge Kavanaugh of sexual misconduct. Are you saying that all 3 of those women are liars? Is there anything that could be said at this hearing tomorrow that could cause you to withdraw the nomination? Anything at all that...
I won't get into that game. I only tell you this. This is one of the highest quality people that I've ever met. And everybody that knows him says the same thing. And these are all false to me. These are false accusations in certain cases, and certain cases, even the media agrees with that. I can only say that what they've done to this man is incredible. You know, it's very interesting. I pick a lot of judges. I have 145 judges I will be picking by the end of a fairly short period of time because President Obama wasn't big on picking judges. When I got there, I said, how is this possible? I have 145, including Court of Appeals judges. And they just didn't do it. You know why? They got tired. They got complacent. Something happened. I have 145 judges. Everybody wants to be a federal judge, not just a Supreme Court judge. I'm talking about Court of Appeals. I'm talking about district court. I don't think they're going to want to so much. I'll be calling people, and we'll have people calling people that do this. And people are going to be scared because we could say it about you. 35 years ago, you met, and you might not know what's going on What is going on? Why did they wait so long? Why did Senator Feinstein wait till the hearings were over and make this case? Why didn't she bring it right at the beginning when you ask about, as an example, the FBI? Why didn't they bring this right at the beginning, during the hearing? You would have had all the time in the world for the FBI. It would have been fine. Now, the FBI, as you know, did investigate this time, as they have 5 or 6 other times, and they did a very thorough investigation. But this is a big con job, and I would love to be in the room with the Democrats, close the door, you guys are all away outside waiting, and Schumer and his buddies are all in there laughing how they fooled you all. Let's just stop them. A big, fat con. Yeah, go ahead.
But, Mr. President, if I could follow up, you have daughters. Can you understand why a victim of sexual assault would not report it at the time? Don't you understand?
By the way, I only say this. 36 years, no charge, no nothing.
But everybody, that happens often. I mean,
people are going to have to make a decision. 36 years, there's no charge. All of a sudden, the hearings are over, and the rumors start coming out. And then you have this other con artist, Avenatti, come out with another beauty today. I only say that you have to look at the facts. The senators are very capable people. They're very good people. I know many of them. They're friends of mine. These are very talented, very good people. And they're going to vote. They're going to have to believe what they believe. When I look at what's happened to the reputation of a great gentleman, a great intellect, a brilliant man, somebody that has a chance to be one of our great Supreme Court justices in history, intellectually, I think it's a shame. Yes, please.
Yes, Mr. President, my name is Tomas Regalado from Radio and TV Marti. Mr. Okay. President, yesterday at the speech at the UN, you spoke about how Venezuela's problem was because of Cuba and the Castros, how they went in there and they brought socialism and communism to Venezuela and now to Nicaragua as well. Mr. President, are you going to be more proactive now against Cuba as well?
I've been very proactive against Cuba. I don't like what's happening in Cuba. As you know, President Obama gave them a pass, and I didn't like it. Neither do Cuban people based in Miami and based in our country that came from Cuba and suffered in Cuba. I don't like what he did. I've ended much of it, most of it. I don't like what's happening in Cuba, and I certainly don't like what's happening in Venezuela. Yes,
Mr.
please.
President.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, just to finish really fast, you said also that you had a call to action to ask the leaders around the world to also end socialism. Would you like to be recognized as a
Well, I wouldn't say that socialism has been working really well around the world. Okay, you can take a look at Venezuela as your number one, I guess the one that's most obvious. But you take a look around the world, socialism is not exactly riding high. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. If you don't mind, after I'm finished, if Weija or Hallie or Vivian or one of our female colleagues could go after me, that would be great. Mr. President, just to follow up on these allegations against Brett Kavanaugh.
What does he mean by that? Explain. What does that mean?
I think it would be great if a female
What does it mean? No, what does it mean?
It would be great if a female reporter would ask you a question about this issue. So if you don't mind,
I wouldn't mind that at all. No, wouldn't mind it at all.
All right. Well, let me. If I
wouldn't make any difference to me.
All right.
Go ahead.
If I could follow up on John and John's question, why is it, Mr. President, that you always seem to side with the accused and not the accuser? You have 3 women here who are all making allegations, who are all asking that their stories be heard. And, you know, if you look at the case of Roy Moore, if you look at the case of one of your staffers, you seem to time and again side with the accused and not the accuser. Is that because of the many allegations that you've had made against you over the years?
Well, first of all, I wasn't happy with Roy Moore. Let's get that straight. But Roy Moore was a Republican candidate, and I would have rather had a Republican candidate win. I was very happy with Luther Strange, who was a terrific man from Alabama, but Luther Strange had a lot of things going against him. As far as women, whether it's a man or a woman, these are, you know, it can happen the other way. Allegations can go the other way also. You understand that. And whether it was a man or a woman, 30 years ago, 36 years ago. In fact, they don't even know how many years ago because nobody knows what the time is. That's a long time. And I could pick, as an example, hopefully I won't have to do it as a replacement, because hopefully this is going to go very well on Thursday. It's going to go very well on Monday or Saturday or Sunday or whenever they vote. But I could pick a woman, and she could have charges made from many years ago also.
But don't you
And
understand,
I
sir,
would
that
look
many
at
of
the
these,
character.
many of
No,
these
what I have to
accusers
do.
are reluctant to come forward. You've raised doubts about these accusers. Many of them.
I don't think people are reluctant to come forward. They're going to have a chance to speak at a. They have a major chance to speak. Excuse me. They have a major chance to speak, and it will be tomorrow, I assume. We've delayed this, meaning the Republican senators, not me. The Republican senators have delayed this for weeks now. They're giving the women a major chance to speak. Now, it's possible I'll hear that and I'll say, hey, I'm changing my mind. That is possible. We want to give them a chance to speak.
You think all three
and they're
should have the
given.
chance? All three should have the chance to
Well, whoever is given a chance. We've delayed it a long time, but they're going to have a big shot at speaking and making their case. And you know what? I could be persuaded also. Okay? Yes, please. Please, go ahead. Go ahead. I'd like to go. Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. And a
Thank
couple
you.
of questions for you to follow up on some answers that I didn't quite hear from you, if you would allow me a couple of questions. First of all, do you think these women, all three of them, are liars? Yes or no?
Have they been what?
Are they liars?
I can't tell you. I have to watch tomorrow. I have to read. I just heard about one a little while ago. I can tell you her lawyer is a lowlife, okay? So I can't tell you whether or not they're liars until I hear them. I don't know what happened today. I can't tell you. I have to watch tomorrow. I have to read. I just heard about one a little while ago. I can tell you her lawyer is a lowlife, okay? So I can't tell you whether or not they're liars until I hear them. I don't know what happened today. I can't tell you. I have to watch tomorrow. I have to read. I just heard about one a little while ago. I can tell you her lawyer is a lowlife, okay? So I can't tell you whether or not they're liars until I hear them. I don't know what happened today. I can't tell you. I have to watch tomorrow. I have to read. I just heard about one a little while ago. I can tell you her lawyer is a lowlife, okay? So I can't tell you whether or not they're liars until I hear them. I don't know what happened today. I can't tell you. I have to watch tomorrow. I have to read. I just heard about one a little while ago. I can tell you her lawyer is a lowlife, okay? So I can't tell you whether or not they're liars until I hear them. I don't know what happened today. I can't tell you. I have to watch tomorrow. I have to read. I just heard about one a little while ago. I can tell you her lawyer is a lowlife, okay? So I can't tell you whether or not they're liars until I hear them. I don't know what happened today. I can't tell you. I have to watch tomorrow. I have to read. I just heard about one a little while ago. I can tell you her lawyer is a lowlife, okay? So I can't tell you whether or not they're liars until I hear them. I don't know what happened today. I can't tell you. I have to watch tomorrow. I have to read. I just heard about one a little while ago. I can tell you her lawyer is a lowlife, okay? So I can't tell you whether or not they're liars until I hear them. I don't know what happened today. I can't tell you. I have to watch tomorrow. I have to read. I just heard about one a little while ago. I can tell you her lawyer is a lowlife, okay? So I can't tell you whether or not they're liars until I hear them. I don't know what happened today. I can't tell you. I have to watch tomorrow. I have to read. I just heard about one a little while ago. I can tell you her lawyer is a lowlife, okay? So I can't tell you whether or not they're liars until I hear them. I don't know what happened today. I can't tell you. I have to watch tomorrow. I have to read. I just heard about one a little while ago. I can tell you her lawyer is a lowlife, okay? So I can't tell you whether or not they're liars until I hear them. I don't know what happened today. I can't tell you. I have to watch tomorrow. I have to read. I just heard about one a little while ago. I can tell you her lawyer is a lowlife, okay? So I can't tell you whether or not they're liars until I hear them. I don't know what happened today. I can't tell you. I have to watch tomorrow. I have to read. I just heard about one a little while ago. Okay, let's go. One more word. Should I let her ask Democrats? Go ahead. Okay, let's go. One more word. Should I let her ask Democrats?
Why is that?
I know. Let's go. One more word. Should I let her ask Democrats?
Why is that?
I know. Let's go. One more word.
Why is that?
I've been watching you for a long time.
ईमेल आईडी जो थी यार ज्वाइन ना करो अपन अपना अकाउंट पे रहता है कर दिया पहले तो नहीं कर 10 तारीख के बाद यार ज्वाइन ना करो मैं इतना बढ़िया पे रहता है तो नाम दे दीजिए पहले ना नहीं 10 तारीख के बाद यार ज्वाइन ना करो मैं इतना बढ़िया पे रहता है कि फोटो लगाओगे तो नाम दे दीजिए पहले ना नहीं 10 तारीख के बाद इसका अकाउंट डिटेल्स याद है मैं इतना बढ़िया पे रहता है कि फोटो लगाओगे हाँ तो लिख के भेजो इसका अकाउंट हाँ तो लिख के भेजो ये फर्स्ट नाम है इसका अकाउंट हाँ तो लिख के भेजो डेडलाइन फर्स्ट नाम है डिजिटल मार्केटर 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 मतलब डिजिटल मार्केटर हूँ मैं डिजिटल मार्केटर नहीं ना मैं वीजा मार्केटर कंट्री जो है कनाडा का मार्केटर हूँ मैं डिजिटल मार्केटर नहीं ना मैं वीजा मार्केट दवाई खा लो कंट्री जो है कनाडा का मार्केटर हूँ मैं डिजिटल मार्केटर नहीं ना मैं वीजा मार्केट दवाई खा लो कंट्री जो है कनाडा का मार्केटर हूँ नो थैंक्स क्या लिखा ओके लिखता ना मैं वीजा मार्केट दवाई खा लो कंट्री जो है कनाडा का मार्केटर हूँ सेव कर देता हूँ नो थैंक्स ना ओके लिखता ना मैं वीजा मार्केट दवाई खा लो कंट्री जो है कनाडा का मार्केटर हूँ सेव कर देता हूँ नो थैंक्स ना ओके आप सेव कर दीजिए सेव कर देता हूँ industry. No thanks, ma'am. Marketing है ना, जब marketer marketing advertising industry. No thanks, ma'am. Marketing है ना, जब marketer marketing advertising industry. No thanks, ma'am. Marketing है ना, जब marketer marketing advertising industry.
So when I say I view it differently, somebody sitting there watching television where they say, oh, this happens to me many times. I've had many folks. So when I say I view it differently,
अपलोड नहीं सेव कर दिया तुमने सब चीजें ये भी नहीं हो रहा क्या पोस्ट कर रहे हो कि वो भी ठीक है इसको दिखाई पहले चीजें बंद करो फोटो बदलो डिजिटल क्या आ रहा है कि वो भी ठीक है इसको दिखाई पहले चीजें बंद करो फोटो बदलो डिजिटल क्या आ रहा है कि वो भी ठीक है दिखाई पहले चीजें बंद करो डिजिटल क्या आ रहा है थोड़ा काम करो पापा यार प्लीज जल्दी दो यार मैं तो सबको देख रही हूँ मैं तो तुम ऑटो थोड़ा काम करो पापा यार प्लीज नहीं ऐसे बॉटल तो दे दो यार मैं तो सबको देख रही हूँ मैं कहाँ देख रही हूँ बिना एडिट थोड़ा काम करो पापा यार प्लीज नहीं ऐसे बॉटल तो दे दो यार मैं तो सबको देख रही हूँ मैं कहाँ देख रही हूँ बिना एडिट थोड़ा काम करो पापा यार प्लीज नहीं ऐसे बॉटल तो दे दो मैं तो सबको देख रही हूँ लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग चल रही है नहीं बॉटल तो दे दो बिना एडिटेड बिल्कुल लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग चल रही है नहीं बॉटल तो दे दो अपनी भी शर्ट खुली हुई है बिना एडिटेड बिल्कुल लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग चल रही है नहीं ये कंपनी को तो नहीं है बॉटल तो दे दो अपनी भी शर्ट खुली हुई है वही ग्रे वाले आवाज दिखाई है लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग चल रही है नहीं ये कंपनी को तो नहीं है अपनी भी शर्ट खुली हुई है वही ग्रे वाले आवाज दिखाई है लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग चल रही है नहीं ये कंपनी को तो नहीं है फोटो नहीं एडिट के करते हैं वही ग्रे वाली आवाज दिखाई है ये तुम्हारी फोटो वही ग्रे वाली आवाज दिखाई है ये तुम्हारी फोटो मम्मी पापा कुछ पापा से बैग अंदर है टेबल पे नहीं है मम्मी पापा बैग तो देखते हो पापा उसका पर्स मुझे दे दो मैं निकाल के दूंगी पापा उसका पर्स मुझे दे दो मैं निकाल के दूंगी पापा मुझे पर्स के ऊपर रखा था वहाँ पे साइड में वो मुझे पर्स दे दो पापा उसका पर्स मुझे दे दो मैं निकाल के दूंगी एक लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग और स्टार्ट करना, एक और ट्राई करना। सही मोड पे एक लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग और स्टार्ट करना, एक और ट्राई करना। जैसे एक ही बंदा देख रहा है तो हम कितने एक मेंबर सही मोड पे एक लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग और स्टार्ट करना, एक और ट्राई करना। जैसे एक ही बंदा देख रहा है तो हम ये आगे क्या है सोर्सेज एक लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग और स्टार्ट करना, बंदा देख रहा है तो ये आगे क्या है सोर्सेज नहीं यार, लेफ्ट साइड ये राइट साइड है ना स्ट्रीमिंग और बंदा देख रहा है ये आगे क्या है सोर्सेज नहीं यार, लेफ्ट साइड ये राइट साइड है ना। अरे यहाँ नहीं बोल रहे, कम करो यहाँ दूसरा एक और जैसे सेटअप करते हो। नहीं यार, लेफ्ट साइड जीरो से स्टार्ट करो, जीरो से वापस हो 20। अरे यहाँ नहीं बोल रहे। वापस OBS खोलो या फिर नया प्लेटफॉर्म जीरो से स्टार्ट करो जीरो से वापस OBS खोलो इसलिए यहाँ नहीं बोलो वापस OBS खोलो या फिर छोड़ो नया प्लेटफॉर्म जीरो से स्टार्ट करो जीरो से वापस OBS खोलो इसलिए यहाँ नहीं बोलो वापस OBS खोलो या फिर कुछ और देखो कुछ और काम करो कर लें जीरो से स्टार्ट करो जीरो से वापस OBS खोलो इसलिए यहाँ नहीं बोलो वापस OBS खोलो या फिर कुछ और देखो वॉलपेपर लगाओ पीछे करो कर लें कैनेडा गूगल करो कैनेडा की दिलवादी इसलिए यहाँ भी लगा लो वापस OBS खोलो या फिर कुछ और देखो कैनेडा कैनेडा गूगल करो कैनेडा की दिलवादी इसलिए यहाँ भी लगा लो वापस OBS खोलो या फिर कुछ और देखो कैनेडा Google
President Obama said that's how to say he's ready to go to war. You would have had a war millions, not thousands, millions of people soldiers. If I wasn't elected, he'd be 40 miles and 30 miles from us. That's very dangerous. He's ready to go to war. If I wasn't elected, you would have had a war millions, not thousands, millions of people soldiers. If I wasn't elected, he'd be 40 miles and 30 miles from us. He's ready to go to war. If you would have had a war Will we make a deal? I don't know. But I think we're going to, in the meantime, I don't want to throw no rockets, no missiles, no tests. You know, for over a year, you haven't seen. I don't know. But before I got here, everybody in this room thought you were going to war. And then what happened was tests. Terrible. You know, it's so rough. You haven't seen. I know Chairman Kim, before I came down, everybody, he was so rough. It's terrible. And I had a witness meeting. He was terrible. That when they so rough, he was too soft. I know Chairman Kim, before I came down, had a great meeting. Everybody, he was so rough. It's terrible. And I had a Syria, Israel, we had a great meeting.
नीले वाले सेक्शन पे एडिट का बटन है नीले वाले पे नीला नीचे वाला वही तो नीले वाले सेक्शन पे नीले वाले पे नीला बड़ा बड़ा नीचे वाला स्ट्रेच करो ना नीला बड़ा बड़ा नीचे वाला नहीं हेल्प नहीं करना ये बॉक्स इसको स्ट्रेच करने की कोशिश करो ना तेरा बाल बॉक्स को उल्टा बना रहेगा नहीं टाइट नहीं करना ये बॉक्स इसको स्ट्रेच करने की कोशिश करो ना तेरा बाल बॉक्स को उल्टा बना रहेगा कैनेडा का कोई कॉलेज का नाम नहीं टाइट नहीं करना ये बॉक्स इसको स्ट्रेच करने की कोशिश करो ना तेरा बाल बॉक्स को उल्टा बना रहेगा कैनेडा का कोई कॉलेज का नाम मार्केटिंग डिजिटल मार्केटिंग कॉलेज marketing, digital marketing
Now, could they start up again?
इसका नाम हमारा है इसका नाम हमारा
They were a country going. I really believe that President Obama would admit that he's went far, much bigger. When I sat with him,
अंबर कॉलेज इसका नाम तो याद रहा हमारे अंबर कॉलेज अर्जुन यूनिवर्सिटी को याद एजुकेशन ऐड करिए अर्जुन यूनिवर्सिटी अंबर कॉलेज अर्जुन यूनिवर्सिटी को याद एजुकेशन ऐड करिए अर्जुन यूनिवर्सिटी
I haven't given any. That could have been a world war. And all of a sudden,
एजुकेशन ऐड करिए
what's taking so long? I said, oh, I get it. What's taking so long? Oh, well, we're working as necessary. I didn't want to do it. I said, why don't we stop it? I told you how much those games cost. And frankly, I told myself, why don't we stop it? I told you how much those games cost. How long? And frankly, I told myself, why don't we stop these massive bombers in my face? I consider that but we've done it. We're saving, by the way, just for the tax, we're saving a fortune. And if we need them, we can start by these massive bombers. If I think we need them, I'll start it before the generals will start. I consider that. The fact is, this reporter said, by the way, what have we done? We're saving a fortune. I haven't given it. And if we need them, we can start by these massive bombers. If I think we're really starting to do some generals will start. But we're not playing the time game. If it takes 2 years, 3 years, or 5 months, and it doesn't matter. There's no nuclear testing. There's no testing of rockets. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, please. But we're not playing the time game. This is the one that was nodding every night. 5 months said, so watch this question. And it doesn't matter. There's no nuclear testing. Deal with who? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Good, Skynet. Congratulations on the one that was nodding every night. 5 months said, so watch this question.
Nothing to do with me.
I hope you benefited. Go ahead.
Are you at all concerned at the message that has been being sent to the women who are watching this?
I hope you
use language like conjob in relation to allegations.
I've used much worse language in my life than conjob. That's like probably the nicest phrase I've ever used. I mean, conjob. It is. It's a conjob. You know, confidence. It's a confidence. Yeah, but they show. Go ahead. It's a conjob. I've used much worse language in my life than conjob. That's like probably the nicest. They did the same thing with the Russian investigation. It is. It's a conjob. They tried to convince people. Confidence. It's a conjob. I had something to do in relation to conjob. I've used much worse language in my life than conjob. That's like probably the nicest. They did the same thing with the Russian investigation. They said, gee, we're not doing well. They tried to convince people. We're not doing well. I had something to do. Let me call the Russians to help. Think of, does anybody really believe that? It's a conjob. And I watched these guys, little Adam Schiff and all of the guys. He takes a call from a Russian who turned out to be a fake. He was a comedian. Does anybody? This is so-and-so calling from. He took the call. Why is he taking a call from a Russian? Senator Warner took a call from a Russian. He takes a call from a Russian. He was a comedian or something, but fake.
have pictures of President Trump. So where can I get him to go? Why is he taking a call? If we ever did that, it would be like Senator Warner took a call from a Russian. Yeah, it's a con job, and it's not a bad term. It's not a bad term at all. I'll tell you one thing I can say. I've had a lot of people talking about this to me with respect to what's happening. Because it's a horrible, it's a con job, and it's not a bad term. I'm going to have to get other judges and other Supreme Court judges. I'll tell you one thing I can say. I've had a lot of people talking about this to me with respect to what's happening. And when I called up, it's a con job, and it's not a bad term. I'm going to have to get other judges and him and his family. I'll tell you one thing I told them. I chose them more than to me with respect. They were so happy and so honest. It was as though, and it's not really the biggest thing gets ever happened, but I am his family. I'll tell you one thing I told them. I don't want to be in a position where there was people say, no thanks, no thanks, I don't want to know. You know, I spoke to somebody 38 years ago and it may not be good. I don't want to be in a position, a country to run, there was people say, no thanks, no thanks, I don't want to know. But I'll tell you this, I spoke to the people that have complained to me about it the most, about what's happening, are women. Women are very angry. You know, I got 52% with women. Everyone said this is happening. 52% about it the most. Women, what's happening? So angry. Women, and I frankly think, you know, I got 52% with women. I think they would like what the Republicans are doing, but I think they would have liked to have seen it go a lot faster. But give them their day in court, and let her have her day in court. Let somebody else have a day in court. I think they would like the ones that I find. I mean, I have men that don't like it, but I have women that are incensed at what's going on. And let her have. I've always said women are smarter than men. I've said that a lot, and I mean it. Women are incensed at what's going on. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Lebed. Women are smarter than men. Who are you or where are you from? And I mean it. Women, guy looks like he's shocked. That's not. This is going to be not good. The guy looks totally like stunned. Have you ever been picked before for a question?
Yes, sir, but not from President.
Go ahead. Give me a.
Thank you very much. My name is Majid from Huda Media Network.
This is going to be.
I want to, sir, ask you. You always
totally
talk
like stunned.
about.
Excuse me. You said you were from picked before.
Huda Media Network from
Okay. Go ahead. Give me a.
Thank you very much. My name is
great people. This is going to be great people. Thank you. Are you a Kurd? Excuse me. You said you were from picked before. They're great people. They're great fighters. I like them a lot. Let's go. I like these questions.
Mr. President, you always say you support your allies. Kurds right now, after the
Are you a Kurd?
Excuse me, are under a lot of pressure in Syria.
Great people. They're great fighters. I like them a lot. Let's go. I like these questions.
Elevate their position to your allies. Kurds after the day helped the United States to defeat a lot of
well, we are helping them a lot. And we've been very friendly with them. As you know, we've fought side by side. And we have defeated ISIS essentially a very short while ago in the Middle East. And we did it with a lot of help from the Kurds. And they are great fighters. Some people are great fighters. Some people like the Kurds are great fighters. And they're great people. And we're going to be discussing that situation exactly when we did it with a lot of help from well, I'm just telling you, we're discussing that situation. We have already started discussing that situation. But we've had tremendous support from the Kurds in defeating ISIS.
About Syria, sir, in your speech,
well, I'm just telling you, we're discussing that situation. We have already started discussing that situation. But we've had tremendous support from the Kurds.
Susan Lee from Fox Business. Did you reject a one-on-one meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau?
Yeah, I did.
Why?
Because his tariffs are too high and he doesn't seem to want to move, and I've told him forget about it. And frankly, we're thinking about just taxing cars coming in from Canada. That's the mother of that's the big one. We're very unhappy with the negotiations and the negotiating style of Canada. We don't like their representative very much. They've taken advantage. I love Canada.
A one-on-one meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, I did.
Why?
Because his tariffs are too high and he doesn't seem to want to move, and I've told him forget about it. And frankly, we're thinking about just taxing cars coming in from Canada. That's the mother of that's the big one. We're very unhappy with the negotiation. A lot of things negotiating. We've done Bob Lightheart. Canada's here someplace. We don't like their representatives. Bob Lightheart is taking advantage. I love Canada.
A one-on-one meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, I did.
Why?
Because his tariffs are too high and he doesn't seem to want to move, and I've told him forget about it. And frankly, treated our farmers in Wisconsin and New York State and a lot of other states
very badly. Dairy products, 300%. 300%. How do you sell a dairy product at 300%? The answer is you don't. What it is a barrier. It's basically they're saying, we don't have any barriers. By the way, it's 300%, so you don't send it in because you can't compete. So Canada has a long way to go. I must be honest with you. We're not getting along at all with their negotiators. We think their negotiators have taken advantage of our country for a long time. We had people that didn't know what they were doing. And that's why we had, over the last 5 or 6 years, if you average it out, we had $800 billion a year in trade losses. It's ridiculous. It's not going to happen.
What about NAFTA? Sir, Mr. President, NAFTA. What does that mean for NAFTA? Will you be pulling out of NAFTA?
I don't like NAFTA. I never liked it. It's been very bad for the United States. It's been great for Canada. It's been great for Mexico. Very bad for us.
Will you pull out of the
I'm not going to use the name NAFTA. I refuse to use it. I've seen thousands of plants and factories close. I've seen millions of jobs lost to auto companies that moved. I mean, Mexico has 25% of our auto business now because of NAFTA. Under our deal, it's not going to happen anymore. I hate to tell you, it's not. We're going to keep companies. And I told the Mexicans, I said, we have to keep companies, but they're getting a lot also. They're getting other things. They're getting a lot of good things. Mexico made a very good deal. But with Canada, it's very tough. What we're doing is, if we made a deal with Canada, which is a chance still, but I'm not making anything near what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. But are you going to notify Congress of
what
pulling
we're
out of
probably
NAFTA?
going to do is call it the USMC, like the United States Marine Corps, which I love. General Kelly likes it even more. Where's General Kelly? He likes that. USMC, which would be U.S., Mexico, Canada. But it'll probably or possibly be just USM. It'll be United States and Mexico.
Yes or no?
Canada will come along. Now, if Canada doesn't make a deal with us, we're going to make a much better deal. We're going to tax the cars that come in. We will put billions and billions of dollars. We're thinking about just taxing cars coming in from Canada. That's part of the mother. Good job, sir. You do a very good job. Really. Yes, please.
A meeting with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, I did.
Why?
Because his tariffs are too high and he doesn't seem to want to move, and I told him forget about it. And frankly, farmers in Wisconsin, New York State, very badly. Dairy products, 300%. 300%. How do you sell a dairy product? Yeah, I did. At 300%. Because his tariffs are too high and he doesn't seem to want to move. What it is a barrier. It's basically they're saying, we don't have any barriers. By the way, it's 300%, so you don't send it in because you can't compete. So Canada has a long way to go. I must be honest with you. We're not getting along at all with their negotiators. We think their negotiators have taken advantage of our country for a long time. And people seem to want what they were doing. That's why we have. And frankly, we don't have any barriers. Over the last 5 or 6 years, if you average it out, we had $800 billion a year in trade losses. We're not getting along at all with their negotiators.
How about NAFTA? Sir, Mr. President, NAFTA. What does that mean for NAFTA? Will you be pulling out of NAFTA?
That's why we have. We don't have any barriers. I don't like 5 or 6 years. I never liked it. It's been very bad for the United States. It's been great for Canada. It's been great for Mexico. Very bad. I'm not going to use the name NAFTA. I've seen thousands of plants and factories. I've seen millions of jobs lost to auto companies that move. Mexico has 25% of our auto business now because it's been great for Mexico. Under our deal, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to use that. We're going to keep companies. And I told the Mexicans, I said, we have to keep companies, but they're getting a lot also. They're getting other things. They're getting a lot of good things. Mexico made a very good deal. But with Canada, it's very tough. What we're doing is, if we made a deal with Canada, which isn't going to happen, but I'm not making anything near what they want. I told the Mexicans
to notify Congress of
what we're probably going to do is call it the USMC. Mexico made a very good deal. The United States Marine Corps, which I love. It's very tough. General Kelly likes it even more. Which is it? He likes that. USMC, but I'm not going to be US, Mexico, Canada. But it'll probably or possibly be just USM. It'll be United States and Mexico. Canada will come along. Now, if Canada doesn't make a deal with us, we're going to make a much better deal. We're going to tax the cars that come in. Probably or possibly be just USM. It'll be United States and Mexico. Canada will come along. Now, if Canada doesn't make a deal with us, Canada will come along. Now, we're going to tax the cars that come in. to tax the cars that come in. Canada will come along now. If Canada doesn't make a deal, we're going to tax the cars that come in. We're going to tax the cars that come in. Canada will come along now. Right now, if Canada doesn't make a deal, we're going to tax the cars that come in. We're going to tax the cars that come in. Right now, if Canada doesn't make a deal, we're going to tax the cars that come in. We're going to tax the cars that come in. I picked up the failing right now, and I opened it up, and I think that's like a perfect story. We're going to tax the cars that come in. And I said that they were being surrounded, and they were going in and starting literally the next day they're going to drop bombs all over the place, and perhaps kill millions of people. In order to get 35,000 terrorists. And I put out on social media and elsewhere. I gave Mike Pompeo and John Bolton, and I said that they were being surrounded, and they were going in and starting literally, don't let it happen, they're going to drop bombs. I said, don't let it happen. That doesn't mean they can't be used terrorists. And I put out on social media and elsewhere. I gave Mike Pompeo and John Bolton, shooting the terrorists. So don't kill, don't let it happen. I said, don't, and it's not. That doesn't mean that they can't be used. That's okay. Because anyway, and I have had more serious things. This was about 4 weeks ago. So I said, they're surrounding the city of 3 million people. I said, they're going to start bombing the city. That doesn't mean that they can't be used. That's okay. And I meant it. And I have had more serious things. Millions of people have been saved. And I gave today great credit to Iran. I don't know if you heard that. I gave great credit to Iran, to Russia, and to Syria for not doing it. Now I hope it's going to be surgical, meaning go in and millions of people have been saved. Like me and everything else, great credit to Iran, and they possibly have to do it. I gave great credit to Iran, millions of people would have been killed. And to Syria for not hopefully, and I have to tell you, Turkey has been a big help. Turkey has been great. Turkey has helped us very much with that whole situation. Yes, yes. And they possibly have to do it.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Touching back on Iran, of course, this week you put out a call to action to other countries to rally with America to put pressure on Iran. Rouhani still calling for the U.S. to come back into the old deal. But after meeting with world leaders this week, did you make any progress towards a potential new deal?
Thank you very much.
Touching back on Iran, of course, this week you put out a call to action to other countries to rally with America to put pressure on Iran. Rouhani still calling for the U.S. to come back into the old deal. But after meeting with world leaders this week, did you make any progress towards
far greater than they were during the Green period with President Obama. Far greater. When President Obama stuck up for government, not the people, he probably would have had a much different Iran had he not done that. But I'm sticking up for the people. I am with the people of Iran. But here's the thing. Far greater than they were during the Green period. They have rampant inflation. Their money is worthless. Everything President Obama, they have stuck up for government. You can't buy bread. You can't do anything. It's a disaster for Iran had he not done that. At some point, I think they're going to stick in that. I am with the people of Iran. But here's the thing. Far greater than they were. Very simple. I just don't want them to have nuclear weapons. That's all. Is that too much to ask? I don't want them to have nuclear weapons. I want them to have a great government. I want them to sell so much oil so that the oil prices. I'm not happy with OPEC. At some point, I think I told them I'm not happy with OPEC. But here's the thing. We take care of all these people. We defend them. They wouldn't be there for 2 weeks if it wasn't for me and the United States and a much stronger armed forces than it was. I want them to sell so much oil so that the oil prices. We had old equipment. Now we have. Hey, you know better than anybody. 700 billion, 716 billion. We take care of all these people. We defend them. They wouldn't be there for 2 weeks Not that I want to spend it, although much jobs to force the United States. I want them to see Iran has to come back. They have to talk. You know better than anybody. 700. I'm not doing this from strength. I'm just saying at some point I think they're going to have to come back. If you look at what's going on, companies are leaving left and right. Mercedes-Benz just Iran. Iran has to come back. They don't want to be in Iran. You know better than anybody. Because they have choice. Do they want to be with Iran or do they want to be with us? And we picked up $10 trillion since my life. Companies are leaving left. We were being caught by China, and now it's going the other way. People can't believe it. People have never seen this situation with China. Everything's always been for 20 years old. China's so great. China's so great. And you don't hear that so much anymore. I love China. $1 trillion since my life. But you don't hear that so much anymore. You know who's great now? Caught by China. Okay, how about just a couple? People have never seen this situation. Now I could be doing this all day long. I could be doing this all day long. Should we continue for a little while? I love China. $1 trillion. A couple of more. I don't care. New York Times. Come on, New York Times. The failing New York Times. Stand up. Go ahead. Now I could be doing this. No, I'm talking about the Times is failing. You are far. I could be doing this all day long.
You were pointing to me, so you meant
the Times is very interesting. The Times. A couple of more. I don't care. I think they're going to be New York Times. Come on, New York Times. I think that ABC, Fox. Now I could be doing. I think ABC, CBS, NBC, The Times, Washington. They're all doing this. The Times is very interesting. Can you imagine if you didn't have me? Go ahead. What would you like to say?
I know you're pointing to me, but
come on, New York Times. I know that. No, I know ABC, Fox.
So I want to ask you. Yesterday, did you talk about your administration's accomplishments at the United Nations? And a lot of directors laughed. Why isn't there?
Well, that's fake news. It's fake news, and it was covered there. Okay. So I said that our economy has become the hottest in the world. Tax reductions, regulation, confidence levels are the highest. 18 years. Well, it's fake news. Unemployment was the lowest. So I said, country, you look at black unemployment, Asian unemployment, I look at women 65 years. The unemployment numbers are among the best we've ever had. Confidence levels are the highest. The numbers of new companies pouring into our country, nobody thought was going to happen. And I said, you look at black unemployment, I look at Asian in front of them, I look at women 65 years. The unemployment numbers are among the best we've ever had. Confidence levels, people that aren't getting clapping numbers, new companies pouring into our country, as I said, our country, and I said that black unemployment, I was Asian in front of them, highly professional, and unemployment numbers are among the best we've ever had. People that aren't getting clapping numbers, new companies pouring into our country, so the fake news said people laugh, and I said that black unemployment, I was Asian in front of them, highly professional, and unemployment numbers are among the best we've ever had. People that are in the United States, new companies pouring into our country, so the fake news said people laugh, and I said taking our companies, not paying the price to so many other things, even military protection. I told a number of countries over the last few days, I said, listen, you're a very rich country. We protect you. Without our protection, you would have real problems. You would have real problems. I said, you should reimburse us for this protection. Why are we protecting you? And you want to know what they said? After about 2 minutes of talking, they agreed with me. And you can ask this group of very talented people. They agreed with me. But they said, one of them said, but Mr. President, nobody ever asked us for that. They never asked us for that. Nobody's ever said, you should pay. These are really wealthy countries. I mean, I'll be honest, I just asked Japan. I said, we're defending you. You're a very wealthy country. You're sending us millions of cars. You're making a fortune. We have a tremendous trade deficit with you. And we're defending you, and we're subsidizing your military with a massive amount of money. I said it to South Korea. We have 32,000 soldiers in South Korea. They're very wealthy. These are great countries. These are very wealthy countries. I said, why aren't you reimbursing us for our costs? And you know what? They look at me, and they can't even answer it, because there's no answer. If they're a poor country and they needed protection and people were going to die, I'm all for protecting them. I don't want 10 cents. But when wealthy countries that have massive trade surpluses with us, massive, and then on top of that, we're paying for their military, or we're paying for a lot of their military, that doesn't work. How about 2 more and we'll call it?
Mr. President, really quickly, and Mr. President, you said you feel a kinship. You said you feel a kinship with Brett Kavanaugh, and Mr. President, really quickly, you said you felt a kinship with Brett Kavanaugh. You said that you also, your false allegations that you feel like were made against you make you feel like you don't want to believe these women. What message do you think?
No, I didn't say that. Why do you say that?
Please
Fake news. Why did I say that?
Well, can you please explain then what you were talking about in your
And by the way, I think you do a very good job, but I didn't say that. I do watch you, and I think you do a very good job, but I didn't say that.
So could you explain what
This is a CBS News special report. I'm Jeff Glor, reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York. Good morning. President Trump is about to talk about the election results from last night. The Republicans held on to the Senate and added to their majority, but Democrats took back the House. So for the first time, the president will have to deal with one chamber of Congress controlled by the opposition, led likely by Nancy Pelosi. Mr. Trump fashions himself as a master deal maker, so his skills will be put to the test over the next 2 years. We may have seen a preview in his tweet today. He said that Nancy Pelosi deserves the honor of being Speaker. The Republicans added 2 seats to their majority in the Senate so far. They will have 53 seats, it appears, right now in the new 116th Congress, to 47 for the Democrats. The president, in another tweet, called that a big victory. In the House, the Democrats picked up at least 27 seats to take control of the House for the first time since 2010. The president will be holding this news conference in the East Room, his second solo news conference there since taking office. And as we wait for the president to arrive, should be just momentarily, we have Nancy Cordes and Ed O'Keefe on the set with us. Welcome back to both of you. Been working long hours since last night. Apologies if I interrupt you mid-sentence here if the president steps up. But Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, if the president steps up. But Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, if the president steps up. But Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, if the president steps up. But Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, if the president steps up. But Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, if the president steps up. But Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, if the president steps up. But Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, if the president steps up. But Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, if the president steps up. But Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that the Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, the president steps up, and Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that the Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, the president steps up, and Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that the Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, the president steps up, and Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that the Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, the president steps up, and Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that the Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, the president steps up, and Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that the Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, the president steps up, and Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that the Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, the president steps up, and Nancy, what are you expecting?
Well, I think he's going to try to put the focus all on the Senate. That, according to him, is the big news of the night. Of course, the fact that the Democrats took control.
Mid-sentence here, the president steps up, and Nancy, what are you expecting?
each of these open seats, Democrats recruited very strong candidates with substantial fundraising and media support. We were getting bombarded with money on the other side. In the House, Republicans dramatically outperformed historical precedents and overcame a historic number of retirements, the most House Republican retirements in 88 years. 43 House Republicans retired. Now, I will say this, that in many cases they were chairmen of committees, and they left because they weren't chairmen, because the Republicans have a rule for 6 years. And what that does is wonderful in one way. It lets people come through the system and become chairman. In another way, it drives people out. Because when they're a chairman, they don't want to go and not be a chairman. You're the chairman of a committee, and you're a big deal, and all of a sudden, you're not doing that anymore. So they leave. We had a lot of them leave. It's, I guess you can flip a coin as to which system is better. The Democrats do the other. Some of their folks have been on those committees for a long time as chairman. In 2010, President Obama's first midterm, he lost 63 seats. By contrast, as of the most current count, looks like around 27 House seats or something, and we'll figure that out pretty soon. We also had a slew of historic wins in the governor's races. The governor's races were incredible, against very well-funded, talented, and skilled Democrat candidates and people that worked very, very hard, respectfully, for those candidates, like Oprah Winfrey, who I like. I don't know if she likes me anymore, but that's okay. She used to. But she worked very hard in Georgia, very, very hard. And if you look at them, with 4 governor's races crucial to 2020 and the presidential race, Florida, Iowa, Ohio, and Georgia, the big ones. Florida, Iowa, Ohio, and Georgia. Can't get much more important than that. They were incredible. They were actually incredible campaigns, too. Incredible. As of right now, Republicans will control the majority of governorships across the country, including 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. Country, they worked very, very including hard. 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. Country, they worked very, very including 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. Country, they worked very, very including 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. Country, they worked very, very including 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. Country, they worked very, very including 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. Country, they worked very, very including 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. Country, they worked very, very including 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. Country, they worked very, very including 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. Country, they worked very, very including 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. Country, they worked very, very including 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. Country, they worked very, very including 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. Country, they worked very, very including 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. Country, they worked very, very including 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. Country, they worked very, very including 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa.
the country, including 3 great women who worked very hard. The governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. The country, including 3 great women who worked very hard. The governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. The country, including 3 great women who worked very hard. The governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. The country, including 3 great women who worked very hard. The governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. The country, including 3 great women who worked very hard. The governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. The country, including 3 great women who worked very hard. The governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. The country, including 3 great women who worked very hard. The governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. The country, including 3 great women who worked very hard. The governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa.
never before, and we're thriving on every single level, both in terms of economic and military strength, the Republic in terms of development, in terms of... So our great country is booming like never before, and we're thriving on every single level, both in terms of economic and military strength, the Republic in development, in terms of... So our great country is booming like never before, and we're thriving on every single level, both in terms of economic and military strength, the Republic in development, in terms of... So our great country is booming like never before, and we're thriving on every single level, both in terms of economic and military. Now is the time for members of both parties to development, in terms of... So our great country is booming like never before, and we're thriving on every single level, both in terms of economic and military. Now is the time for members of both parties to development, in terms of... You probably heard it so much you don't want to hear it again, but when people come to my office, presidents, prime ministers, they all congratulate me almost the first thing on what we've done. Booming like never before, and we're thriving on every single level. Now is the time. These are industries that were dead. Our miners are working again. Let's all work together. We heard it so much you don't want to hear it again. But when people come to my office, presidents, prime ministers, they all congratulate me almost the first thing on what we've done. Booming clean water. We want beautiful, perfect